to LA with it. I'm going to LA with it. Yeah. 10 toes down, I'ma ride with the gang. My whole life I've been doing my thing. Get that money, ain't no thing. Anything I do for the gang. 10 toes down, I'ma ride with the gang. My whole life I've been doing my thing. Get that money, ain't no thing. Anything I do for the gang. Anything I do for the gang. Took those L's and I took that blame. All money in, we ain't copping no change. Feel like Ice Cube, cause I did good day. Don't need 3 whips, don't need no race. I'ma keep it simple in the Chevy I skate. Thank the Lord every time I wait. Lace my shoes and I get to that cake. Heads up, I'm coming. This is all we ever wanted. Go and stack it by the hundreds. This is all we ever wanted. 10 toes down, I'ma ride with the gang. My whole life I've been doing my thing. Get that money, ain't no thing. Anything I do for the gang. 10 toes down, I'ma ride with the gang. My whole life I've been doing my thing. Get that money, ain't no thing. Anything I do for the gang. Pedal to the floor, to the engine. Head up in the clouds when I levitate. We don't spit game, we just educate. 10-10-80, had a paper straight. Couldn't get it back then, so I had to wait. Now the money come to me, so I don't have to chase. I don't gotta flash nothing, I don't gotta fake, darling. We not practicing, we ballin'. And heads up, I'm coming. This is all we ever wanted. Go and stack it by the hundreds. Heads up, I'm coming. This is all we ever wanted. Go and stack it by the hundreds. This is all we ever wanted. 10 toes down, I'ma ride with the gang. My whole life I've been doing my thing. Get that money, ain't no thing. Anything I do for the gang. 10 toes down, I'ma ride with the gang. My whole life I've been doing my thing. Get that money, ain't no thing. Anything I do for the gang.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy, Marlon. We are back at it again with another edition of the show. So, if this is your first time watching, don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button. Turn on that post notification bell so you never miss out on the daily updates that we have in the land of PlayStation and Xbox, as well as PC whenever we have things to cover. If that's something that intrigues you, then this is the place for you. Welcome back to the channel, guys. All right, man. Appreciate you guys' support on this morning's video. I will try my best, and this is something that I wanted to continue to do moving forward. It's kind of hard with my schedule, especially in the morning and stuff like that. It's kind of really hard because I'm typically really busy during the morning times now. So my plan moving forward is to basically have a video kind of going over a lot of the major topics or anything like that beforehand, before the main show starts. And if I cannot for some reason do the main show, then you guys can expect at least a video to kind of get you guys up to date on what's going on in the world of gaming. So appreciate all of you guys being here, man. Thank y'all so much for y'all love and for y'all support and for coming back to the show pretty much daily. I'm really blessed to be in the position to do this for you guys. So thank y'all for that, man. Big up yourself. Welcome back to the channel. Make sure you guys do me a favor. Hit that like button. We've been doing a great job. I've been trying to do the best that I possibly can to keep the content consistently moving forward for you guys. At least every single day, I'm trying my best to update you guys and keep the content flowing. So please do your part by hitting the like button, by sharing out the stream and things of that nature. Now, YouTube just dropped some information on me yesterday, and I just kind of like wanted to go over this just so you guys know how we're doing as a community and everything like that. So I got an email from them, obviously, you know, wrapping up 2024. We basically had almost 3,000 subscribers on the channel. So I thank you guys for that one. I mean, you know, almost 3,000 subscribers is nothing to sneeze at. That's a lot of people. And shoot, if we can go through 2025, thank you for subscribing, by the way. That's kind of the irony of this whole thing. But real quick, just getting some housekeeping stuff out the way before we get into the content. But yeah, if we can, you know, pull in, you know, over 3,000 every year or even 4,000 every year, that is literally nuts. So thank you guys so much. I mean, 2024, that's really good. And then almost 2 million views on the channel as well, which I think is really incredible considering the amount of consistency that we've been putting on the channel. Almost 400 uploads, 101,000 likes, almost 11,000 comments, which is really cool, and then almost 4,000 shares. So you guys are actually sharing the stream. When I actually do say, hey, share out the stream and help out the content, help out our community, that is really awesome. So we're trying to grow this thing big, man. Like I told y'all, it's not about me. It's about all of us as a community. You know, some days are good, some days are bad. You know, some news are good, some news are bad. It is what it is. But we look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. So thank you guys so much, man. And also our top our top video for 2024 was Black Myth Wukong. Can't believe that. Cannot believe that. My live impressions of Black Myth Wukong. See, actually, Black Myth Wukong live stream and video literally just scorched the channel. So just wanted to, you know, thank you guys and shout out to Game Science and obviously the collaboration that we have done on the controller and everything like that. So I think that was really cool. So just wanted to update y'all on that. But we do have some major topics to go over and discuss today, man. We do have a deep dive with my man, the myth, the legend, the lead architect of PlayStation when it comes to the consoles and stuff like that, my man Mark Cerny. Feel so blessed to have met Mark Cerny at E3 years ago, and I felt like this whole technical seminar for the PS5 Pro was probably held back. Not probably, it was held back because obviously you know how people are. People were bashing the PS5 Pro, saying it's a waste of money and all this controversy and negativity. Like I said, negativity is what a lot of people feed off of. So the price, obviously, Sony already knew people were gonna, talk about how expensive it was, and people were comparing it to PC and this and that. I can go build another PC for this or build a new PC for that. Blah, 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 all that stuff, right? PSSR, this, that, whatever, Series X is better, blah, blah, blah. Notice you haven't really seen a lot of people even talking about price or anything of that nature. Everything has died down since then. So I felt like this is the perfect time for Sony to actually come out and just kind of give us a much more technical deep dive into the PS5 Pro. Like what is like the whole mind behind the Pro and the whole ordeal in terms of the technology, PSSR, all that good stuff. So we're going to be we're going to dig in deep into that here today. And Digital Foundry also had conducted an interview with Mark Cerny, and I believe my man Fitzgerald, what's his name? My man Mike Fitzgerald in an interview as well. So we're going to be taking a look at those two here today. And we also have more stuff to even talk about. Like, obviously, we're going to talk about how no Xbox competition for PlayStation in some European markets. Obviously, according to Circana, Nintendo Switch surpasses PS2 in US sales. So that's interesting there, to say the least. And we also do have an update on Marvel 1943. Amy Hennig, she's working on that game. A lot of you guys remember Amy Hennig when she was at Naughty Dog and stuff like that, working on Uncharted and stuff. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to see more about Marvel 1943. And crazy enough to even say it, like, we haven't really seen anything on this game since like literally the trailer drop. So I'm pretty sure you guys are excited about that. That game looks incredible. And there's another game called Exodus that's been making the rounds. Kind of reminds me of Mass Effect. But yeah, man, we have tons of stuff here to, talk about. Also, Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Now, the crazy part about that game is it's been getting so much hate to the point where people want to sit here, we got a bunch of hypocrites in our gaming community, right? Because, on one hand, they'll say, oh, people say this about Xbox. Yeah, well, people are saying this about PlayStation as well, too. And people love negativity, bro. They really feed off the negativity. They love the soap opera nonsense instead of just sticking to the facts. Now, is it a possibility that the entire story plot for Intergalactic could have been leaked out? Yes, for sure. Could there be a disgruntled developer that is working at Naughty Dog because Neil Druckmann probably pissed him off, or whatever the case may be? Yes, that's all possible. But people want this game to fail, right? Obviously, because we have a bald-headed chick that's playing the lead character, right? So it's kind of like, man, anything negative, people like to feed off of it. Turns out that the actual story leak was fake. And obviously, when you read the actual story leak, it sounds so freaking fake, right? But no, everybody wants to rush, turn on their camera and make a video. Why? Because, well, if it makes money, it makes sense, right? And a lot of people know that this game is Naughty Dog's game, so it's going to get a lot of views, and that's what some people want. You know what I mean? They want to like dive into all this stuff and try to bash this game. Bro, you have not seen gameplay on this game. And that's just like my whole ordeal. If you don't like the game, you just don't like the game. Similar to Indiana Jones. People was whining and complaining about it not being third person. Oh, it's not third person, so I'm not playing it. You're going to miss out on a game because it's not third person? Really? Like, I get everybody have their preferences and everything, but man, all I see nowadays is nothing but negativity and complaining. That's all I see. Nobody is ever satisfied with anything at all. Like, every single thing drops. You make a new game, they still complain. You come out with a new console, they still find something to complain about. It's like I don't know what else to say. So you just have to make your own self happy Buy what you want to buy, play what you want to play, make yourself happy at the end of the day. That's really all it really boils down to. I'm just here to play video games. I'm here to talk about video games and share my love for video games with you guys. That's it, plain and simple. Like, I'm not here to waste your time. I'm not here to be your friend, and I'm not here to be negative and be a negative Nancy. Like, if the news is not good, the news is just not good. And then we can break down on why it's not good. Simple as that. I'm not here to sit here and convince you otherwise. If you want to buy the Series X, there it is right over there. I play it all the time. There it is right over there. You want to buy one? That's your friggin' business. I'm not stopping you. PS5 right here. You want to buy one? Go buy one. PC, you want to go build you a high-end PC? 5090 is getting ready to drop. 50 series is getting ready to drop. 8000 series AMD is getting ready to drop with their graphics card. Go buy you one. That's your business. You know, at the end of the day, as long as you are playing games, that is all that matters. And the crazy part about it is that on the PlayStation side of things, we've been wanting Sony to make new games. More new games, more new IPs, be more creative. And it's crazy because the reference of the box art of Intergalactic reminds me of Uncharted, right? Where Nathan Drake had his shotgun on his shoulder and stuff. And it's the same thing with Intergalactic, with her sword and everything on her shoulder and stuff. And I'm like, I see the classic Naughty Dog reference. You guys don't even know. There's so many games that people kind of slept on. Oh, this is trash. Oh, this is that. And it's like, bro, you have to look at the gameplay and you have to see, okay, what is this bringing? And you could see the Last of Us reference in there, which I've told you guys. We even break down the actual trailer for Intergalactic on show and show you guys the Naughty Dog Last of Us reference. You know what I mean? References of Last of Us inside of Intergalactic. So it's going to be crazy. Imagine if this game, you know, have, what you call it, Last of Us Part 2 gameplay mechanics. Oh, my Lord, have mercy. Help our souls, God, because I think that will be extraordinary considering how the gameplay in that game is king. And it literally outshines all the propaganda, all the nonsense talk about woke this and woke that, because that's all we can talk about in the gaming community nowadays is every single thing is woke. If it's a female lead, it's automatically woke. Well, have you played the friggin' game? No, I have not. Okay, well, you don't need to be yapping about woke this and woke that. And all it really is basically a trend that is never ending. You know what I mean? So it's just going into 2025. Oh boy, let it begin. Just now, we just heard about the recent strategy shift with Xbox and what Xbox is doing. Hey, I'm going to say this one last time. It's a beautiful thing on what Xbox is doing, making their games on every single device, but it sucks for those of you who buy a console for exclusivity because you want the games to just be available on that box that you have purchased. But the reality is those days are over with. Console exclusivity is over with. Sony is doing it and PlayStation is doing it. Nintendo keep their games right where they belong on their console. So if that makes you mad, or if you're upset, or you don't understand plain comprehension, then I don't know what else to tell you. But at the end of the day, this is what it's going to be. I've seen so many people on Twitter right now saying, oh, this game is getting announced for Xbox. Oh, can't wait to play it on my PS5 and Switch. That's all you see in the comments now. Anything new that gets announced for Xbox, all you're seeing most of the time on Twitter is, oh, can't wait for it to come on PS5 and Switch, because people are automatically conditioned their mind as, okay, Microsoft is a third-party company now, full-blown third-party multi-platform company now. And they've made it very evident that, listen, we're going to be distributing our games on other devices, all right? Not just the cloud, not just mobile, not just your phone or your tablet, but every single thing that's compatible with our ecosystem, that's compatible with our end goal, which is Game Pass. So the more you understand the vision, the better it is for you to make a purchase decision. Now, make no mistake that when Microsoft drops their next console, a lot of you guys are going to buy it. Why is that? Because you care about the console experience. That's why. And that's what I was trying to explain yesterday. But no, we have a bunch of negative Nancy's that don't understand plain English in regards to what I'm trying to articulate. But that's for another time. But hey, you know what? let's go ahead and let's start off the rip here with what Mark Cerny has to say in regards to the PS5 Pro. Also, make sure you guys go ahead and vote on the poll at the top. Let me know how you feel about the PS5 Pro. Do you think it's worth it? Do you think it's a waste of money? All that good stuff. Please vote on top of there. At any point during the show, you want to go above and beyond, which is optional, by the way, and you want to super chat, you want to donate in the description to show your love and support, extended love and support, that is, feel free to do so, or consider gifting some memberships. Definitely does help out our membership community. All optional, by the way. Thank you so much for your support. Hit that like button, hit that share button so more like-minded people can find out about the show. All right, so let's get right into the deep dive, man. So I'm not surprised here that Sony is doing this once again. I remember they did something similar for the base PS5, and obviously that road to PS5 video was more geared towards developers and not so much of the regular audience, the regular PlayStation fans or gamers alike, because there was a lot of things that Mark Cerny was saying back in that road to PS5 video that a lot of people did not understand. Obviously, Sony did their 10-minute sort of mini deep dive into the PS5 Pro, basically going over the big three stuff like the ray tracing, PSSR, and then also the GPU, how much better the GPU is. We already know that the CPU is basically 10% better than the base PS5 there. And so here we are. Obviously, we have seen some of the evidence of the big three being utilized. Obviously, like I said, PSSR is basically a muscle that needs to be exercised. There's different versions of PSSR that developers have access to. And as long as they're using the latest version of PSSR, you will definitely get the best representation of one of the big three, which is PSSR. Yesterday, we did cover from Digital Foundry, in case if you missed out on yesterday's show, that the PS5 Pro technology, PSSR, is literally out here matching what DLSS is actually offering, considering that DLSS has been on the market for at least about 6 years now. And so now we're going over into DLSS 4, which I think is going to be interesting to see the image quality of DLSS 4 with the 50 series GPUs. And obviously we have FSR 4 as well, which is going to be powered by AI. I mean, they're all powered by AI and things of that nature to kind of give you a much more algorithmic, better image quality and things of that nature. But needless to say, it's going to be interesting to see once those new upscaling technologies drop on the market and how it literally stacks up against Sony's PSSR, considering Sony is talking about, their continued partnership with AMD and things of that nature with PSSR and also the PS5 Pro. So the more you understand that, the better it is. You have a clear vision of what to kind of expect when it comes to GTA 6, a lot of the other games that are dropping in 2025 that is going to be utilizing the Pro. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's take a reaction to this, and then we're going to kind of give our 2 cents on what Mark Cerny is kind of basically saying here. So if you're interested in all this, hit that like button for me. And this is about almost 40 minutes long, so we're going to go over this thing, check it out. At any point, if you guys have any questions, any concerns, feel free. Hit the like button, subscribe. And I'm going to be looking at this for the first time because when this dropped, I was literally busy this morning, so I couldn't get a chance to actually sit down and actually watch this. So we're going to watch it together. Hit the like button. Let me turn off the music because I want to hear the legend himself, Mark Cerny, kind of break this down so people can understand the whole mindset of the PS5 Pro. Here we go. All right, so let me put myself down here and let's take it away.
Hi, I'm Mark Cerny. Today I'd like to do a deep dive into the technology behind our latest console, PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, to be clear, this is a bits and bytes talk with no game footage at all. Principally, I'll be explaining what we put into the PlayStation 5 Pro GPU and why. Historically, every 7 or so years, there's enough interesting technological advances that we release a new generation of console, like PS3 or PS4 or or 5. These introduce broad improvements like a more powerful CPU and GPU, and also significant new capabilities like compute shaders on PS4 or the SSD and 3D audio on PS5. Games can then be created with the whole console feature set in mind. It allows for a tremendous step up in what the player experiences. It does take a certain amount of time for game creators to get up to speed with that new console. But we're all prepared for that because the benefits of moving to that new generation are so high. Recently, there have also been console releases during a generation, like PS4 Pro and now PS5 Pro. These are much more tightly focused, typically on the GPU. And what developers are making are improved versions of games, never dedicated games. So targets for Pro...
So you see right there what he just said? Developers are making improved versions of games, not dedicated games. You understand what I'm saying? Because a lot of people have it to say, oh, well, are we going to just be getting dedicated only PS5 Pro games? No, you're not. You know what I'm saying? You're not. All it is just enhanced games. All right. So hope you guys understand that portion. All right. So let's see the broad improvements and then the tightly focused situation with the PS4 Pro and PS5 Pro. So just so y'all understand exactly what's going on.
Pro consoles are very different. First, the work that needs to be done by the game creators for the Pro console needs to be kept to an absolute minimum. They already have a lot of pieces of hardware they're supporting. We don't want to add much to that burden. And second, those tightly focused improvements need to be pretty significant. The games have to play noticeably better. One of the trickier aspects of console design is that creating a console is roughly a 4-year journey. In order to launch PS5 Pro in 2024, we were actually trying to work out the key feature set in 2020. In other words, at a time before PlayStation 5 had even been released. And of course, what we came up with was the set of improvements we've been calling the Big Three. First, there's that larger GPU. The idea is simple. Pretty much anything the game is rendering on PlayStation 5 should get a lot faster on PS5 Pro. Second, there are the upgrades to the ray tracing hardware. Those games that move to the new architecture should get a substantial additional speed boost. And finally, there's AI-driven upscaling. The upscaling technology is a combination of custom hardware for machine learning and an AI library called PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. PSSR for short, that runs on top of that hardware. PSSR analyzes the game images as it upscales them and can add quite a bit of crispness and detail. Now, to do all that, we needed a larger and more capable GPU. This is what we used on the original PS5. It's a GPU...
So the regular PS5 has RDNA GPU 18 workgroup processors, so WGP. So there you go. That's for the base PS5. Okay.
From our partner AMD. More specifically, it's an RDNA 2 GPU, meaning that it used the second generation of AMD's RDNA 2 technology. The GPU has subunits called workgroup processors, or WGPs. PlayStation 5 has 18 of them. The GPU on PS5 Pro is much larger. It has 30 workgroup processors.
Wow.
It's also what I'm calling a hybrid RDNA GPU, which is to say, it combines multiple generations of RDNA technology. The base technology for PS5 Pro is somewhere between RDNA 2 and RDNA 3. I'm calling it RDNA 2.x.
2.x.
As I'll shortly explain, that choice makes it much easier for game developers to port their games to the new console. Ray tracing uses what I'm calling future RDNA technology. It's roadmap RDNA that's well past the feature set today. It's showing up here first. And machine learning is custom, or to be more specific, it's custom enhancements to RDNA. And just to be clear, I may say machine learning or ML or AI today. These are just different words for the same topics. Now, to support that GPU and the overall plan for PS5 Pro, we needed faster memory and we needed more memory. The faster part is pretty simple. The system memory on PS5 Pro has a bandwidth of 576 gigabytes per second, which is 28% higher than PlayStation 5. More memory is needed for a variety of usage scenarios on PS5 Pro. Integrating PSSR takes memory. A few hundred megabytes are needed for its internal buffers. Adding ray tracing takes memory. Ray tracing uses data in the form of an acceleration structure that can easily be a few hundred megabytes in size. And if the game is targeting higher resolution, that can take memory as well. That can be just a little memory, perhaps if the maximum rendering resolution is being increased a bit, or it can be a lot of memory, for example, if the game is targeting 8K. So we supply over a gigabyte of extra memory to the games, and we do this in the same way we did on PS4 Pro, which is to say we added a hidden slower RAM. We used DDR5 for that, and moved a lot of the operating system into it. That keeps games, which need high bandwidth, in fast memory.
So smart, man, with the additional gig of RAM, for extra, for the OS, for whatever else, for the game, stuff like that. That was really smart on Mark Cerny's behalf to add that, because you just never know when you need that additional like headroom and things of that nature. That is really, really important. And I think a lot of people are missing this, but over a gig more memory is really, really good, separate from, what's already coming with the actual console. So, PSSR, obviously, if it has to upscale, more for the actual game, the added ray tracing, increase in rendering resolution, stuff like that, obviously to go with the 28% more of faster RAM, which I think definitely does help out, even though it's still, using the same amount of RAM as the base PS5, at 16. But that, adding over a gig more definitely does help out a lot. So there's that one. Let's go ahead. Let's fast forward just a little bit right here. Think about right here.
Games. And we do this in the same way we did on PS4 Pro, which is to say we added a hidden slower RAM. We used DDR5 for that, and moved a lot of the operating system into it. That keeps games, which need high bandwidth, in fast memory. Getting back to the hybrid GPU, I'd like to take you through each of the three aspects of our strategy, beginning with the choice of RDNA 2.x as the base technology. AMD is continuously updating the GPU technology. RDNA 3 has more functionality and is more performant than RDNA 2. There's even a chance to bring in future RDNA technologies like we did with ray tracing. If we're making a new generation of console, of course we want the latest and greatest, but with a mid-generation release like PS5 Pro, we also have to consider that a single game package needs to support both PS5 and PS5 Pro. That limited the degree to which we could adopt RDNA 3 technologies. For example, games have something called shader programs that execute on the GPU. A game might have over 100,000 of them. If we adopted RDNA 3 technologies to the extent that code compiled to run on PS5 Pro wouldn't run on PS5, that would mean creating two versions of each executable piece of code. One for PS5, another for PS5 Pro. That's a massive complication. The game package needs to be patched to include that second version, and then the game needs to either selectively load just the appropriate version, or find room for both versions in system memory. It's a big burden for the developers. Consequently, PS5 Pro uses a version of RDNA that I'm calling RDNA 2.x, which is bringing in a number of features from RDNA 3, but not anything that would cause that degree of complications. For example, aspects of vertex and primitive processing are faster on PS5 Pro. That's from bringing in parts of the geometry pipe from RDNA 3 that are powerful, but either trivial for the game to adopt.
So basically not full RDNA 3, but like RDNA 2.5, basically. So there's that one. Okay, got it.
Or better yet, invisible to the game program. One thing I'd like to clear up is the erroneous 33.5 teraflop number that's been circulating for PS5 Pro. That number isn't anywhere in our developer docs. It comes from a misunderstanding by someone commenting on
Oh boy, Mark Cerny touch. See, that's why I said, like, at the beginning of this generation with even the Series X, people are running around acting like they're software engineers and architects and stuff like that. Oh my God, 12 T flops and this and that, and this and that, and it has this much tops and this and that. And it's like, bro, calm down. It really comes down to how these developers are going to be utilizing the actual hardware, because people are running with this number. Oh, it has this much teraflops and it has this much blah, whatever, you name it. People are over here running with it. Oh, that means this and that means that. And it's like, at the end of the day, if developers are not utilizing every inch of that machine, it doesn't matter. It can have 1,000 teraflops and still be garbage. Okay. So I'm so glad that he's addressing that nonsense, because, it's less than what the rumors were saying. So that means it's weaker, and that means it's trash. Oh boy, let's go back just a tad bit there.
Real for the game to adopt, or better yet, invisible to the game program. One thing I'd like to clear up is the erroneous 33.5 teraflop number that's been circulating for PS5 Pro. That number isn't anywhere in our developer docs. It comes from a misunderstanding by someone commenting on leaked PS5 Pro technical information. Part of the confusion comes from RDNA 3 architectures having double the flops of RDNA 2 architectures. Now, to quote Digital Foundry on this topic, it's a nice little bonus to have twice the flops, but it doesn't do anything like double real-world performance. So there's a certain amount.
Thank you. This is something I've been saying from 4 years ago. I've been saying the same thing, because people were like, oh man, the higher the teraflops, that means the graphics is going to be so much better. And this, you hear what the man just said? When it comes to real world performance, this is something that I've been trying to tell you guys, but nobody listens to me at all. Everybody wants to run with, whatever they want to run with. I'm so happy that he's touching up on this, because again, teraflops makes up a small portion of the overall performance of a console. Like when it comes to real world man, listen to me, man. I'm so happy he's touching up on this.
Fusion comes from RDNA 3 architectures having double the flops of RDNA 2 architectures. Now, to quote Digital Foundry on this topic, it's a nice little bonus to have twice the flops, but it doesn't do anything like double real-world performance.
Exactly.
So there's a certain amount of flopflation going on here.
Flopflation.
We did not bring in the doubled floating point math from RDNA 3 because achieving that bonus in performance would require a recompile for PS5 Pro. And as I said, having two versions of each compiled piece of code would create more work than we're comfortable asking the developers to do.
Exactly.
Here then are the correct stats for PS5 Pro.
It's
pretty simple. PS5 Pro has 30 workgroup processors, which is 67% more than PS5 has. So the flops should be 67% higher as well. If we assume a pretty common operating frequency of 2.17 gigahertz, the math works out to 16.7 teraflops.
Wow, that's a big difference. 67% more. That's a big difference, right? So it's like, this is why I like stuff like this, because you can kind of see the real information. Like, yeah, the leaks and all this and that was saying, oh, it's going to have 33.3 and this and that. 16.7, right? So there you go right there. Nice breakdown and understanding of what's going on here, right? There it is.
PS5 Pro. Of course, teraflop numbers are pretty meaningless. What isn't meaningless is the performance of the PS5 Pro GPU.
Exactly.
67%.
You heard what he just said. Teraflops are meaningless. Means nothing in the I told y'all, don't listen to me. I told y'all boys. I said, all these people sitting here talking about, oh, teraflops this, teraflop. Meaningless. Because in the grand scheme of things, people think the higher the amount of teraflops, that means triple or quadruple the real world performance. And that's just not how it works, bro. That's not how it works. It comes down to the developers and what they're able to do with the machine. You can have something with 100 work groups, right? And still run worse than something with less work groups, or still run worse than a more powerful machine. It comes down to what developers are able to achieve. And I've told y'all that y'all don't listen to me. I told y'all, I said, the easier it is for developers to code and to develop for a specific console, the better the games are going to look and play. The more difficult it is, well, you get what you get, right? So I'm so happy that he's clearing this up right now, because people have it to say, oh no, the higher the teraflops means, oh, the better the performance, the better the real world performance. And that is just not true. And he even touched upon this in the road to PS5. I don't think people pay attention. He touched upon this in the road to the PS5 4 years ago, talking about how meaningless teraflops is. You see what I'm saying? Because people think, oh, the higher the floating points, the better the performance. Oh, Lord, have mercy. There it goes. There you go.
Pro. Of course, teraflop numbers are pretty meaningless. What isn't meaningless is the performance of the PS5 Pro GPU. 67% more workgroup processors means that we can create synthetic tests that show 67% faster processing. In practice, though, there are a lot of factors involved, such as memory bandwidth or even how a particular game engine responds to the details of the new architecture. So a game team might be looking for something more like a 45% increase in rendering speed. That's still a huge improvement, though. At that performance, it means that if a game is running at 60 FPS and is taking 16 milliseconds to render on PS5, then that same frame could be rendered in 11 milliseconds.
See, there it is right there. This is what developers are looking at. You see what I'm saying? I'm so happy he's breaking this down. You see this right here? This is exactly what developers are looking for. Shortening that window, and man, this is it. This is it right here.
On PS5 Pro. That leaves 5 milliseconds to do something new and exciting.
There you go.
Like adding ray tracing.
There you go.
Which is the second of our 3 key improvements on PS5 Pro. There's a passion in the game development community for ray tracing. Even in 2020, before the launch of PlayStation 5, we could see creators using ray tracing to add reflections and improved lighting to their games. At the same time, calculation costs for the rays were pretty high, so when we kicked off development of PS5 Pro later that year, one of our top priorities was finding ways to accelerate that computation. Those conversations with AMD led to our very nice feature set that's showing up here first. Note that there's 2 factors increasing the performance. It's not just that there are 67% more workgroup processors. Thanks to the new feature set, each one is more capable. It's difficult to quote an exact speed up because it's very dependent on specifics of usage, but we commonly see the calculation of the rays occurring at double or triple the speed of PlayStation 5.
Good Lord.
The most impactful new features in PS5 Pro relate to a new acceleration structure and stack management in hardware. There's a lot to unpack here. First, let's talk about the improvements related to the acceleration structure. In order to use ray tracing on PlayStation 5, you need to have data and system memory that describes your geometry, say 1,000,000 triangles worth. Then there's something called an intersection engine inside each of the workgroup processors that lets you check to see if a ray hit any of those 1,000,000 triangles and which it hit first. It would be too slow to test each ray individually against all 1,000,000 of those triangles. So there are also boxes in the data structure. These boxes let the ray tracing hardware more efficiently home in on the triangles that might be intersected. For example, we can see that the ray misses that upper left box, so there's no need to test the ray against any of the triangles contained within it. The boxes are actually in a hierarchy, starting with big ones and progressively reducing in size. Every time we hit a box, we test against the boxes nested within it until ultimately we reach some triangles we can test against. Together, those triangles and boxes are called the acceleration structure. On the original PlayStation 5, we used a type of acceleration structure called a BVH4. BVH stands for Bounding Volume Hierarchy, meaning hierarchy of boxes, and the 4 indicates that the boxes are in groups of up to 4. The intersection engine can then check a ray against up to 4 boxes a cycle or 1 triangle. Generally speaking, there's a lot more checking against boxes. That's what primarily determines the performance of the ray calculations. PS5 Pro adds a BVH8 option for the acceleration structure, where the boxes are efficiently encoded in groups of 8. And the intersection engine runs twice as fast. A ray can be tested against 8 boxes a cycle, or 2 triangles.
Good Lord.
That doubling of the ray intersection speed has a great theoretical impact on ray tracing performance. But real-world cases also need a solution to the problem of divergence. That's what led us to our second big feature, which is stack management in hardware. Before I can explain that feature, though, I have to explain divergence. The workgroup processors handle groups of 32 or 64 items at once. They could be pixels or vertices or rays. This strategy is called SIMD, Single Instruction Multiple Data. So SIMD32 means the same operations are being performed on 32 items. This works very well when all 32 items are getting the same treatment. For example, 32 pixels from a triangle are all reading from locations in the same texture, and then those 32 pixels all need a lighting calculation. This is called coherent processing. There's a difficulty that arises with divergent processing, where some of the pixels need one action taken and others need something else. In this case, it's quite possible that the processing takes twice as long. In the limit, if all 32 items need different handling, it's possible to be dozens of times slower. So when 32 rays are being processed together, the degree of divergence has a big impact on performance. Ray tracing can be fairly coherent. When we compute simple shadows from the sun, the rays are all parallel. But ray tracing can also get extremely divergent. If rays are bouncing off of a curved surface or a bumpy object, then potentially they're all heading in different directions. The shader code needed to handle divergent rays on PS5 is reasonably complicated. Part of what the code has to do is manage a stack. The internal structure of the BVH is quite complex, and each of the 32 rays can be traversing it in a different fashion. On PS5 Pro, stack management is in hardware, which greatly simplifies the shader program.
Wow.
It's shorter, which means it's faster, and since it's handling fewer cases, there's less divergence, which further increases the speed of execution.
Crazy. Less
You may
complicated.
have noticed that there are now two versions of the code that are needed. A longer one for PlayStation 5 and a simplified one for PS5 Pro. But this need for two versions only applies to shader programs that are calculating how rays travel through the scene. There's typically not too many of those. In fact, with some games, it's just a single shader program that needs the two versions. Putting that all together, it's great to have the higher performance, but even better, we're seeing more consistently high performance on PS5 Pro. That consistency comes from the improved handling of divergence. Performance testing on PS5 Pro tends to show a good boost for the coherent cases like shadows or reflections off of flat surfaces.
Crazy.
But a much nicer boost for the divergent cases. The stack management hardware is really high.
God, look at that, man. Reflections off of flat surfaces, shadows, good increase on PS5 Pro. This is over the base PS5 guys. And then you have the curve reflections and stuff, and then the bumpy reflections obviously have a better increase on PS5 Pro. So you're seeing a significant improvement when it comes to ray tracing on consoles. And I don't think it gets any better than this on PS5 Pro. Like, this is really good, really good, and it basically just simplifies everything so that developers can have basically more freedom to kind of go crazy in their games and stuff like that, or I guess a little bit more headroom, or they can get more creative. That's kind of like what I'm getting from this whole ray tracing topic here. And not only that too, but if you look at the patents that we have covered on the channel before with Mark Cerny, basically, trying to improve ray tracing. This was way before we even knew about PS5 Pro. He was basically patenting and finding different ways to advance the ray tracing on the base PS5. And now we know that it's simpler to do it on the PS5 Pro versus the base PS5, right? Because of all the everything that he was just explaining before with the codes and all of that. But yeah, I cannot wait to see a lot of games that really maximizes the ray tracing capabilities, because this is the best that you're going to get until you step into PC territory, at least high-end PC territory, high-end graphics cards, stuff like that, that can handle the ray tracing and still maximize performance on top of that as well. So, yeah, this is awesome stuff, man.
Helping there. Having more consistent performance across a broad set of use cases will go a long way towards easing adoption of ray tracing. The final improvements to the GPU are for machine learning. There are a lot of uses for machine learning, or AI, whichever term you prefer. Large language models and generative AI are quite interesting tech, but with ML, it's also possible to go after a very specific target, which is to give the games a graphical boost. One of the key ways that can work is that the game renders less. There's 8 million pixels on a 4K TV. If the game renders sparsely, say a quarter of those pixels, it can do it a lot faster. And then the right neural network can intuit how to fill in those gaps and make a high-quality image. Another way to think about this, which is not quite as accurate, is that the game renders a smaller, lower-resolution image and then uses the neural network to upscale that.
See, there we go. This is what we're seeing. I want to elaborate on each thing that Mark Cerny is saying so we understand, okay? You can see how PSSR actually fill the gaps, right? Versus how it looks on the left-hand side. You can see Ratchet and stuff. And then also a lot of people was making fun of the Pro because, oh, well, it's rendering from 1864p or rendering from 900p and then upscaling. Of course. I mean, same thing on PC, right? With DLSS, it renders from a lower resolution, a lower internal resolution that you're not going to see, and then upscale it to a higher resolution, which is what the PlayStation 5 Pro is doing. So 1080p is where it's rendering from and then going to 4K, giving you a much more significant, better image quality, which I've told you guys how basically PSSR is basically a muscle. Like, it's going to get better over time. You know, the more and more adaptation, the more and more upgrades that it gets, it's just the algorithm is going to get better and we're going to get better image quality. Now, the reason why stuff like this is very important to understand is because when we get to the bigger games like GTA 6 and, you know, Crimson Desert and all those bigger games, more, you know, whether it's CPU intensive or GPU intensive, look at a game like Space Marine 2. Incredible. That's one of the best representation of PSSR next to a lot of the other games that we have played. And I've shown you guys verbatim with your own two eyes. You have seen how much better the image quality, you know, is on the PS5 Pro versus how it was on the base PS5. The image is a lot more sharper and more crisp and also less fuzzy, right? It's just more vibrant and colorful and really stand out to match what you're getting at 60 frames, which I think that's a huge perk for me. And this is why in the very beginning, when I told you guys that, you know, PS5 Pro is not going to be for everybody. Most of this stuff that Mark Cerny is talking about is not going to scream, oh, this is worth $700. You get what I'm saying? This is more for the enthusiast. This is more for the hardcore fan that's saying, hey, look, I want a better picture quality in terms of my games, and I still want to get, you know, 60 FPS on a lot of my games or some of my games. And in order for you to understand that, you have to be a hardcore fan that really just want the best that you can get out of your games. Similar to a lot of these GPUs, it's like, yo, it's harder for a lot of these CPUs and GPUs to render these games and to play these games at 4K resolution. It's not so easy to flick on a switch and, oh, here we go. My hardware is capable of running every single game at 4K 60. That's not how it works, because you can have, like Digital Foundry had said before, you can have the most powerful CPU and the most powerful GPU, and you're still running into issues because of the engine, because of the way how the game was developed and code and designed to begin with. So doesn't simply mean that you have the best of the best in the entire world in terms of CPU and GPU. It means you're going to be able to run everything at 4K. It's just not how it works. Okay. So that's why you see they have AI upscaling technology to help alleviate some of that pressure off of the CPU and the GPU, and basically, you know, give you either close to native or even sometimes even better than native. And there you go. So I'm so happy that he is, you know, talking about this, because I don't think a lot of people understand how amazing it is for us to have our own proprietary upscaling technology, which is going to be an extension to PlayStation 6.
Image. This is called super resolution, and it's part of a whole family of strategies that reduce the work involved in rendering the game images. There's also frame generation or frame extrapolation, where a neural network inserts additional frames between the ones the game renders. That can really reduce the choppiness of low frame rate games. Neural networks can also be used to turn noisy, staticky images into smooth ones, which is an issue that crops up frequently, particularly with optimized ray tracing. Having said that, super resolution is definitely the focus of our current efforts. It's important to note that high-quality upscaling changes the way we should be thinking about game rendering resolution. Let's imagine 3 games that are rendering at various resolutions. A reductionist view on this is that the 1440p game engine is the best, and that the 1080p game is clearly flawed. But after a super resolution pass, these are all ending up at 4K resolution for display.
You see that? Shuts down a lot of the nonsense that was going around with Alan Wake. Oh, Alan Wake is rendering at 864p. Ha 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 ha. Right? But not realizing that it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because the finished result is going to get you a much more higher image quality than 864p. That's what people are understanding. Everything does this when it comes to AI. You see what he said? 3 games rendering at different resolutions. Obviously, 1440p is way better than 1260p and 1080p. So it doesn't matter. Even at the lowest 1080p, super resolution is the middle guy that's going to come in and increase that to a much more higher resolution and a much more higher, image quality. Am I saying that this is going to be result in perfection? No, nothing is perfect. You're going to have shimmering. You're going to have artifacts, issues here and there, some glitches here and there. And people like to complain. That's what people do. Complain, whine and complain about every single thing, even on DLSS, even on FSR. There are going to be issues. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes, playing on PC, turning on something like FSR, and you could see how fuzzy it looks. It even looks worse than even before you turn it on. Sometimes I switch between DLSS and FSR, and I'm just like, nope, I'm going with DLSS because DLSS just do a way better job. So at the end of the day, it only is going to get better from here on out.
The conversation really needs to be about what's important, image quality. When game creators improve their lighting or materials or add ray tracing, then rendering each pixel can get more expensive and the resolution will drop. They move up on this chart.
Exactly.
And that's perfectly fine as long as the upscaling technology is ensuring that the result is a crisp, beautiful image and not a blurry one.
Thank you.
A different way to say that is that high-quality super resolution lets game creators focus on fewer, richer pixels and significantly improve the resulting image quality. It's a world where internal rendering resolution is not the primary concern. That's the world we want to be in.
Exactly.
When we're using these strategies for graphics, the work isn't exclusively ML. The neural networks tend to be preceded by conventional processing and followed by some as well. It's the piece in the middle that's the neural network. More specifically, it's a type of neural network called a CNN, which stands for Convolutional Neural Network. Here's a simplified CNN for super resolution. It's not quite the one we use in PSSR, but close enough for the purposes of this conversation. You can see a lot of images. In the language of machine learning, they're called tensors, but basically they're images with many bytes of data per pixel. The colored arrows are the layers of the network.
You see that right there? 540p, right? 540p, and then you could see how it's just doing its thing from there and help, like, everything is so streamlined, like a full breakdown of how all this stuff actually works in this neural network. So this is really cool, man. It's really cool to see.
Processing those images. There's quite a few of them as well. Let's zoom in on the first layer. Its input is a game image, 4K RGB. Perhaps it's a quickie upscale of what the game rendered. The first layer does lots of matrix math and then outputs another 4K image, now with substantially more information per pixel, maybe 16 bytes describing edges and the like that the neural network found in that input game image. The second layer then picks up the output of the first layer and does a lot more matrix math. The resulting image might reflect some deeper understanding about what the game rendered. There's also layers that reduce the size of the images. Downsizing to 540p or even 270p lets the neural network efficiently analyze larger scale structures in the input game image. As you can tell, there's a phenomenal amount of math going on here. Easily 10,000 operations are being performed on every input pixel.
Wow.
And we need to do that math in something like a millisecond. Consequently, ML hardware needs very high performance, typically hundreds of trillions of operations per second. Note that we don't call those teraflops because they're integer operations. Instead, we say TOPS.
TOPS.
There were a number of early decisions we had to make. The very first was deciding where in the hardware we would put whatever would do all of that matrix math. Generally speaking, there's two options. One option is to put ML capabilities into a GPU. Of course, that's additional logic so the GPU gets larger. Or one can add an NPU, a neural processing unit. NPUs are brilliant at executing neural networks, but perhaps not so good with the pre-processing and post-processing surrounding the CNNs. The deciding factor was the order of graphics processing within a frame. With this approach, most rendering in a frame is done at low resolution, maybe 1080p. Then machine learning is used to upscale to 4K. And there's no more rendering that can happen until that upscale finishes.
There you go.
So we need to process that neural network as quickly as possible. Which is to say, we need very powerful ML hardware. The more powerful, the better. That need for power is what pushed us towards using an enhanced GPU. The choice was either adding a large NPU or making more moderate enhancements to the GPU. The next big decision was where all of this technology was going to come from. When we were starting the PS5 Pro project in 2020, we knew that we would need performant ML hardware and a high-quality neural network for super resolution. But we're not looking for ML hardware that's generically high performance. We need something that's optimal for our specific kinds of workloads. And our typical workload is a lightweight CNN, something that can run in a millisecond or so and has a lot of little layers. Broadly speaking, you can license tech or purchase tech or build tech, but once you're licensing technology, that's what you're doing forever. So in 2020, despite the degree of effort required, we decided to build our own hardware and software technology.
Wow. I want y'all to understand what Mark Cerny is saying here. You hear what this man is saying? You can license or you can build, right? And it's like, bro, they could have licensed something, but you're going to be licensing forever, right? And licensing something doesn't, you don't own it, right? You're just licensing it. And he was like, nah, we need to build our own. And that's what I'm saying. Y'all don't understand how amazing that is, especially when it comes to console gaming or just in general. It's your own stuff that you know what you're putting in there and you can maximize it or push it to its fullest potential. You don't have to wait on the person or company that you're licensing from to maximize it or to update it. Now you're at the mercy of those companies when you can actually just do it yourself. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy. So that is awesome. That was one of the biggest things that I looked at with the PS5 Pro was the fact that Sony have their own upscaling technology, their own proprietary upscaling technology, right? That they've built. And then Mark Cerny understanding, okay, this is what we need to do in order for us to achieve what we really want, right? So that is amazing, man. That is amazing. And this should really open up a lot of console manufacturers' eyes. Like, yeah, you can go ahead and use AMD stuff if you want to, or NVIDIA stuff if you want to, but then you're at the mercy of them. You know what I mean? They have to update stuff. You have to wait on them to update drivers, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. If something goes wrong, then everything turns to crap. Where if you have your own thing built from the ground up, then you can go in there and fix whatever you need right away. Or maybe the time will be shorter for the results that people want. So that's awesome that he actually touched upon that.
Degree of effort required, we decided to build our own hardware and software technology. I'll start with the hardware. we made a set of targeted enhancements to the RDNA shader core and the surrounding memory systems. We're calling it custom RDNA, as it is custom hardware created to our design specifications, but within the overall RDNA architecture, and of course, implemented by the RDNA experts at AMD. Our target for the peak
300
computational
tops.
capabilities was 300 8-bit tops, which is to say 300 trillion operations a second using
God.
bytes as input.
God.
There's a lot of thought that needs to go into the details of exactly how that math functions, but adding that amount of raw performance is not terribly hard to do. The difficulty is memory access. PS5 Pro has 576 gigabytes a second of bandwidth to system memory. When we compare that bandwidth with the computational capability of 300 tops, it's clear that it's easy to be bandwidth limited. Let me give two examples. If we do a computation where we read a byte as input and then eventually write a byte, that's 2 bytes on the bus. And the balance point of the system is about 1,000 operations on that byte. If we're doing more than that, we have a well-designed system. The 300 tops is being meaningfully utilized. If we do less than that, though, we are bandwidth bound. And we're wasting some of that machine learning capability. 1,000 operations is a lot. Alternatively, to understand this issue, we can take a look at one of the layers of the network, say the second layer from the example I showed before. Let's imagine we have to read that input image and that it has 16 bytes of information for every pixel. That's about 128 megabytes on the system bus. Then we do our math, say a pointwise convolution, and write the output image, which is another 128 megabytes on the system bus. We are completely bandwidth bound. We're only using something like 3% of our potential 300 tops.
Jeez.
So we're throwing out 97% of our performance. And those reads and writes are going to take half a millisecond just for this one layer.
Wow.
That's almost half of our budget for the entire CNN.
Wow.
One strategy for getting around these bandwidth issues is to fuse layers. The idea is to read up that input image, process the first layer, and then stick the results somewhere, maybe in fast on-chip memory, where the second layer can quickly and easily get access to them. As a result, we're reading from system memory once and writing once, but now we're processing 2 layers of the CNN and using something like 6% of our 300 tops. Still terrible, but an improvement. What we really want here is a fully fused network. That's the holy grail of neural network implementation. With a fully fused network, you're reading the input game image from system memory at the very start, processing all of the layers of the CNN internally on chip, and then writing the results back to system memory at the very end. With bandwidth that low, that 300 tops number is finally meaningful. There's 2 problems we need to solve, though. The first relates to the amount of on-chip memory required.
4K buffer.
There's 8 million pixels in a 4K image. If each pixel needs 16 bytes, that's about 128 megabytes. In terms of on-chip memory, that's a lot. Luckily, we don't need to process the whole screen at once. We can subdivide the screen and take just a piece of it at a time through the neural network.
Wow.
Let's call that piece a tile.
Wow.
Problem solved, right? The difficulty we encounter is that as we are processing the tile, bad data creeps in from the edges, so we have to throw out part of our results.
Wow.
The smaller the tile is, the higher the proportion of data that has to be discarded.
Wow.
There are therefore effective limits to how small we can make the tile, and correspondingly, there's a certain amount of fast on-chip memory that's key if we are to achieve that goal of a fully fused network.
Good Lord.
The other problem we need to solve relates to the bandwidth of that on-chip memory. Our targets are incredibly high. We'd like many, many terabytes per second. When you think in those terms, everything seems small. For example, we could increase the size of the GPU's L2 cache and try to use that for the on-chip memory. But unfortunately, the L2 bandwidth is just a few terabytes a second. This memory problem was the starting point for our custom design. From there, it's been almost a 4-year journey. I'll hit a few high points of the hardware architecture, beginning with the memory we ended up using. It turns out we do have fast on-chip RAM in the RDNA architecture with an aggregate bandwidth of 200 terabytes per second. We just need to change our mindset. What we're doing on PS5 Pro is using the vector registers in the workgroup processors as that RAM. Each workgroup processor has 4 sets of registers, each 128K in size, and with a bandwidth of over a terabyte per second. 30 workgroup processors therefore give us 15 megabytes of memory at a combined bandwidth of 200 terabytes per second, which is to say several hundred times faster than system memory.
Lord, have mercy.
Of course, the roadmap RDNA's architecture and instruction set required some modifications to take better advantage of that register RAM. We ended up adding 44 new shader instructions. Those instructions take that freer approach to register RAM access and also implement the math needed for the CNNs, which is primarily done in 8-bit precision. These instructions are specifically designed to operate in a takeover mode where each WGP processes the CNN for a single screen tile. By the way, the 300 TOPS number has been a real mystery since it leaked early this year.
Yep.
No one on the outside has been able to derive that number from the workgroup processor count and the GPU frequency. The secret is that there are instructions that perform 3x3 convolutions.
Stuff is
Those
crazy.
use 9 multiplies and 9 adds for a total of 18 operations. And at that pretty common GPU frequency of 2.17 gigahertz, the performance really does work out to 300 TOPS.
Wow.
Here's the math.
Wow.
The CNNs also need 16-bit math, so there's a number of instructions for that. These instructions tend to be a bit simpler and more straightforward. We kept the chip area and the cost low for the 16-bit math simply by targeting lower 16-bit performance, because most of the processing in these CNNs can be done with 8-bit operations. As for 32-bit math, nothing in the CNNs particularly seems to need it, so we just left it as is. Our custom RDNA solution also involved a number of additional features, which I'm going to skip over so I can get to the other half of what we built, which is the neural network for super resolution that we created to run on top of that custom RDNA architecture.
Good Lord.
PSSR is an original PlayStation design. The full name, of course, is PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, and that spectral is branding. It doesn't refer to any particular aspect of the algorithm. Just like we have Tempest for audio tech, we're using Spectral for our ML libraries for graphics.
Wow.
One of the project goals for PSSR is ease of adoption, so it uses essentially the same set of inputs as FSR or DLSS or XeSS. Those strategies use the pixel color of the current frame, but also depth information and motion vectors that give the flow of the pixels between the previous frame and the current frame. PSSR is not quite a drop-in replacement for the other strategies, but it's close. Having said that, PSSR is designed for consoles, so its primary use case is a little different from the others. PC games tend to render at a fixed resolution and with frame rate that varies based on scene complexity. Gaming monitors can handle that variable frame rate. So a typical PC game scenario is render at fixed resolution, upscale by a fixed 2-to-1 ratio, display at fixed resolution. In contrast, console games tend to have a frame rate that's fixed because they're displaying on a 60 FPS TV. What varies is the rendering resolution. If the scene is complex, then the rendering resolution is lower. If the scene is simpler, the rendering resolution is higher. Since the display resolution is usually fixed at 4K, PSSR needs to handle a continuously changing upscaling ratio. That scenario is primarily what we design for and train for.
Oh boy.
Of course, PC games are increasingly supporting variable rendering resolution, and all of these upscaling strategies can handle fixed upscaling ratios and variable upscaling ratios. I'm just pointing out that the focus with the PSSR project has been a little bit different. So with those goals in mind, starting in 2021, we considered a lot of types of neural networks. They were all recurrent networks, which is to say, they feed some of the results back in as input. For what it's worth, we looked at flat networks that just run at the display resolution, networks that run at the lower rendering resolution with a final bump up to display resolution, autoencoders that step down the resolution and step it back up, and UNets that do the same, but with different connectivity. And that's where we ended up. PSSR is a recurrent UNet.
Wow.
We also learned just how much work remains after a network is chosen. We did a lot of training and then did beta releases to select developers and got to see all kinds of issues cropping up once PSSR was actually integrated into games. And that required yet more training passes.
See?
Some of those issues were trivial. We found out that one game used a perfect blue in its sky, and PSSR had never seen perfect blue in its training.
See?
It had no idea what to do with it.
Exactly. See, a lot of people don't understand. Let me elaborate on something really quickly here. You see, I'm so happy. That's why I love Mark Cerny. I can listen to him all day long. It's like music to my ears. Because I'm learning as I go about things that I didn't know about. And like I told y'all about PSSR, to simplify it, it's a muscle, right? And you have to exercise it every single time, every single chance you get. And a lot of people don't understand how much work goes into something like this. Building your own upscaling technology is a lot of work, and it's not going to be perfect. Just like he's talking about the sky and the sky being blue and stuff. If the upscaling technology doesn't understand that, it's going to cost some shimmering effect, right? It's going to come at a cost. Like, it's going to have all sorts of issues going on, and then developers have to go back in, and then they're going to have to figure out, okay, why is it doing this? You see what I'm saying? And then it's just a long work process. But I think what it is that people want everything to be perfect, and it's not. Even on PC, it's not perfect. PSSR is not perfect, right? DLSS, not perfect. Like FSR, not perfect. You know, all these upscaling technologies that are available right now are not perfect. So there's going to be issues, especially if there's something going on in the game that upscaling technology doesn't know about or anything like that. It's going to cause issues. And so, man, this is kind of crazy hearing him break down PSSR so that people can kind of understand, okay, developers are just going to have to work even twice. All this is telling me is that more training, more development needs to go into PSSR to perfect it. And on top of that, too, developers are going to have to not be lazy, right? But also put in the work that's necessary to maximize every potential of the upscaling technology alongside with their games, right? And then also including that option in there to turn on and off PSSR in case, like what we just see with Alan Wake 2 just being updated and stuff like that, with the option to turn off PSSR. And, you know, you could just go back to the regular, upscaling technology or the graphics modes that were already there. That way, that gives developers time to kind of iron out the kinks on a lot of things. So this is awesome to kind of learn. All right, so let's go back just a little bit right there.
Blue in its sky, and PSSR had never seen perfect blue in its training. It had no idea what to do with it. Of course, some of the issues we encountered were much more complex. Looking back at the 4 years since we started this project, I'm so glad that we made the time-intensive decision to build our own technology.
Yes, sir.
Results are good. And just as importantly, we've learned so much about how AI can improve game graphics. It can only make our future brighter.
Exactly.
So that was the background and details of our improvements in these three key areas on PS5 Pro.
Awesome.
The larger GPU, the advanced ray tracing, and the AI-driven upscaling. I'm going to restate those three somewhat, and then I'd like to take a moment to do something we very rarely do, which is talk about the future. Specifically, I'd like to talk about the future potential in each of these three key areas.
Oh, boy.
First, there's rasterized rendering, by which I mean the conventional rendering strategies that were all we had up through PS4 Pro or so.
All right.
There's not a whole lot of growth left here. It mostly has to come from making the GPU bigger or memory faster.
All right.
Ray tracing is different. It's still early days for the technology, and I suspect we're in for several quantum leaps in performance over the next decade.
All right. PlayStation 6.
Machine learning, though, has the greatest potential for growth, and that's an area we're beginning to focus on.
Hope y'all are paying attention to what this man is saying. All of these big three key technologies and key features of PS5 Pro will carry over to PlayStation 6. All right. I hope y'all are paying attention.
Some of that growth in machine learning will come from more performant and more efficient hardware architectures. The ML architecture in PS5 Pro is quite good, but we did not, in fact, achieve that holy grail of a fully fused network when running PSSR. It's close, but PSSR can't quite keep all of its intermediate data on chip, and therefore does, to some degree, bottleneck on system memory access. We see definite room for improvement in future ML hardware. An additional source of future growth will come from more sophisticated neural networks. When fewer higher quality pixels are combined with the right neural network, the result is richer graphics. One way to look at this is supportable upscaling ratio. If we're able to create quality imagery with a 2-to-1 upscale, and can then improve the neural network and reach the same image quality with a 3-to-1 upscale, then the effective power of the GPU has roughly doubled. And that stacks on top of whatever is being done to speed up rasterized rendering or ray tracing. There's enormous potential here.
Wow.
We also hope to be heading towards multiple uses of these CNNs within a frame, not just super resolution, but also some of the other targets I was talking about, such as the denoising that's needed when doing optimized ray tracing. Through PS5 Pro, we've developed some good understanding of hardware design for machine learning, as well as neural network design. And we intend to continue this work with a pinpoint focus on games.
Wow.
Of course, as part of their broader strategy, AMD is pursuing many of the same goals. And so I have some very exciting news to share.
Oh boy.
We have begun a deeper collaboration with AMD. For the project name, we're taking a hint from AMD's Red and PlayStation's Blue. The code name is Amethyst. With Amethyst, we've started on another long journey and are combining our expertise with 2 goals in mind. The first goal is a more ideal architecture for machine learning.
Wow.
Something capable of generalized processing of neural networks, but particularly good at the lightweight CNNs needed for game
PlayStation
graphics,
6.
and something focused around achieving that holy grail of fully fused networks. In going after this, we're combining the lessons AMD has learned from its multi-generation RDNA roadmap, and SIE has learned from the custom work in PS5 Pro. But ML use in games shouldn't and can't be restricted to graphics libraries.
Yes, sir.
We're also working towards a democratization of machine learning, something accessible that allows direct work in AI and ML by game developers, both for graphics and for gameplay.
Yes, sir.
Amethyst is not about proprietary technology for PlayStation. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Through this technology collaboration, we're looking to support broad work in machine learning across a variety of devices. The other goal is to develop, in parallel, a set of high-quality CNNs for game graphics. Both SIE and AMD will independently have the ability to draw from this collection of network architectures and training strategies.
Oh boy.
And these components should be key in increasing the richness of game graphics, as well as enabling more extensive use of ray tracing and path tracing. We're looking forward to keeping you posted throughout what we anticipate to be a multi-year collaboration. Let me get back to PS5 Pro for one final moment. You've now heard a bit about our fairly intense last few years building this console and developing PSSR. There's been so much learning for us as we delve into these new technologies. But the payoff, as I said in my PS5 tech video a few years back,
Yes, sir.
is in the games.
Yes, sir.
And by now we know to expect the unexpected. It's an absolute guarantee that the development community will grab a hold of this technology and move in a direction that we never could have anticipated. Personally, I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time today.
Bro, I'm telling, right here, like, I'm trying to tell y'all right now, this right here, this collaboration with AMD, I told y'all, I knew this. All the PlayStation 5 Pro is a testing ground for them to learn and to maximize this technology until we get to PlayStation 6. This is all this is, bro. By the time we get to PlayStation 6, all of this stuff will be close to perfection, right? And then partnering up with AMD, oh my God, have mercy. It's fixing to be crazy. I knew they was going to talk about the future in some regards. And I can't wait. I literally cannot wait. And I told y'all, PSSR is only going to get better. The biggest improvement out of the big three, right? That has the the biggest potential to be better is PSSR. Obviously, ray tracing and stuff like that and the GPU, but more importantly, PSSR. That's what's going to get better and better, which I've told y'all. This gives me faith for the bigger games that are getting ready to drop, right? Because I can only imagine what's going to happen next year. Like it's, man, I'm telling you, next year and beyond, it's going to be crazy, especially when it comes to first party games. Wow, man.
Begun a deeper collaboration
This is crazy.
with AMD. For the project name, we're taking a hint from AMD's red and PlayStation's blue. The code name is Amethyst.
Oh, well, there you have it. There you have it, man. There you have it. Just like I initially thought about PS5 Pro. You know, people are bashing, egging the console right now. But this collaboration with AMD on Amethyst, like this is going to be crazy. This is going to be crazy. And this is going to allow Sony to evolve what they're learning right now and make it even better by the time we get to PlayStation 6. Because by the time we get to PlayStation 6, we're going to have more system RAM. We're going to have faster system RAM, more compute units, faster rendering, more powerful GPU than PS5 Pro, faster, more powerful CPU. I mean, PSSR is going to be what version, maybe 2.0, maybe 3.0 by the time we get to that. Lord have mercy. Oh, man. I'm telling you, man, this was a huge pro for Sony developing and engineering their own upscaling technology. And on top of that, trying to maximize every single aspect of this technology and try to make it even better. Because remember what I told you guys, a lot of these games are going to get even more complex and more difficult to run, and especially on the base PS5, right? And not only that, but also the Series X. And with AI being a big thing and a big part of our industry, which I've previously talked about before, it's going to be interesting to see how AI take over. Not only the games being developed with AI is going to be shortening that window of these longer development times between 5 to 7 years, or even sometimes 10 years of development, which a lot of people are getting more and more impatient with waiting on the game. So AI, I'm telling you guys, machine learning, whatever you want to call it, is going to be a big part. A lot of these GPUs, CPUs, and upscaling technologies is only going to get better with time. And console gaming is elevating and it's getting better, and it's starting here. You're getting just a taste of what the future is going to bring with PlayStation 6. Not only that, but also the early adaptation of PlayStation 5 Pro and being able to see what this machine is doing. This is just a taste. This is just a testing ground. This is just an appetizer of what's to come. And this is why I believe, in my mind, how a lot of these more demanding games are going to run. Right now, everything needs to be native, because it's impossible to run every single thing at native, considering how complex these worlds are going to be, how much more advanced these worlds are going to be alongside with technology, and how ambitious these games are going to be. If you look at a prime example of GTA 6 and what we actually heard from the CEO a couple streams ago, where he's talking about doing something that was never done before, and how GTA 6 is going to be breathtaking. I can only imagine by the time GTA 6 lands on consoles, PSSR will already be so much better than how it is now. And see, you have to follow the vision of PSSR to kind of understand that by the time we get there, Mark Cerny, the team, developers are going to be so well trained, and even Rockstar Games, on how to actually use PSSR. And if there's any issues with this technology by that time, having the option to be able to turn it off and then using something like the in-game native upscaling technology, whether it's PSSR, not PSSR, but like FSR or whatever the case may be, then that will be also cool as well. But the future looks bright for the PS5 Pro. I told you guys, and some of the most significant performance upgrades that we are going to see from the Pro will be first party. Sony with their own first party games, with their first party studios that are literally trained to work on PlayStation hardware and developed on PlayStation hardware since the very beginning. You're going to see some jaw-dropping results. You think you see anything yet? Wait until the newer games start coming out. I think one of the biggest problem is right now for a lot of people is the wait-in game. But just wait until you see games like Intergalactic. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Blowing freaking minds. Wait until you see what, Sony Ben is working on, Housemarque is working on, Blue Point Games is working on, and you're going to really see how PSSR really shines and how much better it is going to be, because obviously I'm pretty sure that Sony is training their first party developers to actually, learn how to use PSSR, and then also picking the latest version of PSSR and making sure that a lot of the bugs and a lot of the glitches and shimmering and issues like that can kind of, iron itself out so you can get a much more like perfect experience. But I love the PS5 Pro. I think it's great. I think, what it's going to be doing, years from now, leading up to PlayStation 6 is going to be definitely marvelous. And then by the time we get to PlayStation 6, well, obviously, we're still going to have the PS5 Pro. It's not going to go anywhere because we're going to have a lot of games, a lot of cross-generation games, between PS5, PS5 Pro, and PlayStation 6. So excellent stuff there from Mark Cerny. I know this is probably boring for the majority of you guys, but I'm so happy that he, come on here and kind of break things down about the big three, and then also letting us know about the teraflops, about the work groups, about the RAM, adding over a gig more of RAM and things of that nature to help with, rendering some of these games, and also the operating system and just the overall performance of the PS5 Pro, and making it also easier for developers to get what they need to shorten that rendering time, to shorten their workflow a bit more, and to make things a little bit more easier, because the easier it is, the better a lot of these developers will be in terms of how these games look, how they perform, and things of that nature. And if you look back at 4 years ago when we covered the PS5 on the channel, and I told you guys, like, look, one of the key things that Mark Cerny talked about was how easy it is to develop for PS5, over the previous generation, and how developers were so happy about the PS5 and really maximizing a lot of the capabilities. So like I told you guys, it's not all about power this, power that, because we have seen how, the power talk narrative kind of die out very quickly, because people realize that it's not about teraflops and floating points. It's about what these developers are doing. Why do you think the weaker hardware outshines the more powerful hardware in a lot of games? We have seen that. We have seen PS5 really outshine the Series X in a lot of games, right? And it's weaker hardware. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to how much these developers are going to continue to push and utilize the actual hardware, and not be lazy, but actually really push. That part, my friends, is yet to be seen. So let's go ahead and let's move along with our next topic. I hope that kind of clear up some of the things that I feel like a lot of people, is confused about when it comes to the Pro, and in regards to the leaks and stuff like that. Now, we do have a interview that was conducted. This interview is actually pretty long, not as long as the Mark Cerny one, but I think this one right here is very important as well too, because there's some tad bits in here with Digital Foundry that I think a lot of people need to kind of know about, and then we'll cover all the other topics and stuff like that. So do me a favor, guys, make sure you guys hit the like button for me. You guys are quiet today. I see you guys are quiet today, but that's all right. Let's go ahead and let's hear what Digital Foundry, the interview with Digital Foundry have to say and everything. Make sure you guys hit the like button for the content. If you're enjoying the content, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Appreciate you guys for being here. Let's check this interview out really quickly. All right, so here we go. Wait a minute. Hold on 1 second. I think I know exactly what I need to do here. Okay, let's see here. Stuff with Mark Cerny. Let's put it here. Okay, all right, here we go. Let's try this again. And, oh, nope. Don't know why my computer is so backwards, bro. So backwards. All right, we just did the Mark Cerny stuff, and then now you are acting crazy. All right, there we go. Okay. That's computer for you. All right, fix that. Come down here, and there we go.
We've gone hands-on with PS5 Pro. We've taken a look at a number of games under the microscope, and we've talked about the PS5 Pro over hours and hours of content. But what we haven't done is sit down with some of the people who have made PS5 Pro and some of its software actually possible. So today I'm sitting here with Mark Cerny, the lead system architect for PS5 Pro, and Mike Fitzgerald, the core technology director at Insomniac Games, for a quick chat about the PS5 Pro. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
And when this video is published, you should be able to watch a full version of Mark Cerny's PS5 Pro presentation that I just saw in person live here at the Sony headquarters in California. So that should provide some context for what we'll be discussing here today. But I just wanted to start off here by talking about PSSR, PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. There has been a little bit of a difference in terms of approach between some developers like Naughty Dog and some other developers like, for instance, Square Enix, in terms of the kinds of modes that they're offering. So some developers are basically offering many modes, many toggles like Insomniac, whereas other developers are using PSSR as an opportunity to basically homogenize their existing modes into one ultimate PS5 Pro mode with all the high frame rate fidelity that people are looking for. So what's your kind of position on managing these two things? And do you guys have kind of a way of thinking about that, or a preference for certain titles in terms of targeting those different aspects?
I mean, my preference is that the game developers do what they feel is best for their titles. So this is really a question for Mike.
Yeah, I'd say, when we make a game and we work as a whole studio and team on delivering it, we're making some really tough trade-offs between what we want to present at a higher frame rate and what we can present at the 30 frames per second lower frame rate. So the nice thing about being approached with new hardware,
look at that.
Is that
look at the difference, man. Wow, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy detail. Look at the Fidelity Pro mode. Look how much detail there is. Like the contrast and the colors, and Lord have mercy.
Suddenly those compromises we made while shipping the game go away. And so we were able to bring together a lot of what made the fidelity mode on the base PS5 and what made the performance mode on the PS5 Pro. Now, after spending some time doing that and having a really nice performance Pro mode together, people's attention start to turn to, well, maybe some people still want to play at 30 frames per second. We do have this nice new piece of hardware. What other fun things can we do about it?
Yeah, so I think it probably does depend a lot on the game, because for you guys, you have so much ray tracing
Got you, Daniel.
that you can pack into all kinds of different configurations. Whereas I think a lot of developers are going to be in a position where it's well, we can deliver a good 4K image. Now we can deliver it at 60 FPS. Maybe that's the way to go with just one mode, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I knew there would be a lot of different strategies. I was upfront about this in that first video I did. There were 6 games that were shown, and the first 3 is you can do the almighty mode, and then here's 3 other titles that do something completely different.
Okay, I also wanted to ask just another question about PSSR. We've seen from developers that there have been a wide range of upscaling factors that are going into this PSSR process. We've seen in a title like Alan Wake that's doing 864p to 4K. In other titles, like in the Insomniac titles, maybe it's more like 1440p or 1584p to 4K. Is there a kind of guidance that you have with regards to those upscale factors at the moment? Is there a kind of preference from the Sony team, or is it kind of roll your own, see what kind of image quality you get, and that ultimately is the thing that should decide your approach?
I'll talk a little bit about the tech we're developing, and then you can talk about how you're using it. There's a lot of research going on there. We support one mode that covers a range of 2 to 5 to 1 to 1 to 1.
Okay.
And whether that's an ideal long-term strategy or not, we're definitely talking about it. And we're looking at the low end of the range and the issues we see there versus the high end of the range. So I really wouldn't take that current 2.5 to 1 as any sort of indication about where we'll be years from now.
Right.
Yeah, I would say a lot of it depends too on what you're moving from. So the TAA that we had been leveraging as a studio and still do was really well suited for about 1440 up to 4K, but really struggled. But when it got down closer to 1080, 1280 in that range, and so PSSR behaves very well at that range, and for us, it's the big improvement and gives us an opportunity to spend our time differently there.
Yeah, that fur on performance RT.
Yeah, it really it struggled for me as a player playing at home in the performance modes that we had on the base PS5.
Man, look how good that looks, man.
Quality comeback.
Like the pro mode.
PSSR is basically your kind of first implementation here of a machine learning based upscaling model. And I think we're seeing, that for sure people are doing pretty wide ranges in terms of those upscaling factors. But in the future, are you potentially looking to even increase those upscaling factors or maybe be delivering better quality out of PSSR, out of a new version of PSSR perhaps? Like we know that so far there have been some improvements in that PSSR iteration.
Good question,
over
Oliver.
the time pre-launch. So will that continue in the future, do you think?
I mean, we're definitely continuing with development of these ML-based libraries for game graphics. It's just that there's so many targets to go up against. Like, I was in that talk today, I was also going over frame generation, frame extrapolation, ray tracing, denoising, and the like. So,
man,
what order and what focus? Those are really good questions. Additionally complicating this, of course, is that we announced Project Amethyst with AMD today. Right. So it's not just us developing the networks. We have a partner that we're doing it with. And of course, what the partner feels about that technology direction and where the focus should be is also very important.
Okay, so in that vein, on PC at the moment, we have a lot of technologies, like you mentioned. We have frame generation. We have lots of AI upscaling models. We have people even talking like Intel about possibly frame extrapolation models. We also have models like DLSS ray reconstruction, which are doing pretty profound things to the makeup of a game image in real time in a pretty lightweight manner. So these are areas that you're possibly exploring. Is that what you're saying for future PSSR upgrades? Is that what you're thinking about?
Oh, definitely. Well, it wouldn't be PSSR. It would be, so PSSR is PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution.
So it'll be different branding. Yeah, Spectral's branding.
Spectral is our branding for the ML libraries for graphics, just like Tempest is our branding for our 3D audio. And so it's going to be Spectral something for all of that. And we're definitely looking at what it would be that spectral something, if not super resolution. But super resolution is a very good place to start.
Right. And then in terms of that PSSR, in terms of the way that it's implemented on a per game basis, that's something that developers will presumably have to go and patch in new versions of PSSR, right? Because you wouldn't necessarily want new versions of PSSR kind of in the mix there without a title update, or is that something you're thinking about?
Well, there are a lot of interesting possibilities there. And I know, honestly, I don't know at this time. It's wonderful to think that the game could say it's okay to update, or a user could make a decision to update.
Man, look how good that looks.
All of those pieces fit together.
God, that looks incredible.
From a developer perspective, I think we can look at our games differently a lot of the time.
Incredible.
And I know some developers would say, I don't want the system to touch what I have confirmed looks good to me and players. And other developers would say, oh, your system's going to go and make my game look better for people without me having to do anything great. So there's options there.
Yeah. I think with PSSR, a lot of people are pretty interested in a certain kind of problem, which is that you have a pretty tremendous improvement in image quality. And I think we see this across, different kinds of PC upscalers as well when we're talking about that. But the internal resolution of that imagery might not be changing that much relative to what you saw before. So,
man, look how bad that looks. Look at that. Look how horrible that looks. Look how see, this is the whole point of the PS5 Pro. This is the whole point of the Pro. Those of you who have been playing your games in performance mode, look on the left. Look how ugly that looks. Washed out. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for the image quality on the right. That's how you want it to look. Nothing is going to be perfect. Technology is not going to be perfect. But you see the big difference right there in terms of the image quality? Look at the grass on the right. This is why I try to tell you, don't feed into the nonsense hateful nonsense that's going around. Look at the video for yourself and see for yourself. Oh, is PS5 Pro worth it? Ask yourself that. Look at videos and see, or look at images and see what it is. Now, for the majority, the image on the left is just fine. You know what I mean? I'm fine with it as long as the game is running. Whereas the more enthusiast or the more hardcore fan, nah, man, I want the best image quality and performance that I possibly can get. That's the whole point of the PS5 Pro. And automatically, knowing me, being a hardcore fan, my eyes are just focusing on the right and not on the left. That looks ugly, like abysmal on the left. So yeah, perfect example right here.
The message that to people and tell people like this is a profoundly improved image despite the fact that the internal resolution is comparable. And I know that we're part of this problem for sure, so that's a tough thing to message. But have you thought about that?
You're not part of the problem. And I've heard you talk. I spend too much time on DF, but I've heard you talk about how you really shouldn't be looking at internal rendering resolution and drawing too much in the way of conclusions.
Exactly. Which this was a huge uproar and a huge outcry about, oh, PS5 Pro is a joke because it's upscaling from a lower internal resolution and blah, 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 blah. You see what I'm saying? Like, when you watch stuff like this, all that stuff just sounds so stupid and laughable because almost every single upscaling technology does the same thing. It renders and upscales from a lower internal resolution. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's rendering at 864p. You want to see the finishing result. It's not rendering it out and upscaling it at 864p. It's rendering it from 864p and then outputting it to 4K. Your business and your concern should be the finished result, which is the output resolution, not the internal resolution that it's upscaling from. Oh, Lord God Almighty.
From that, you really need to be looking at image quality. And I was trying to communicate exactly the same message today, is we need to change the way we're talking about resolution. Maybe we shouldn't be talking about it at all. The difficulty is if you don't have a number, it's very hard to have that conversation.
Yeah, I think we tried to get away from it at some point by just maybe stop telling the numbers and start using like some kind of model that would tell people what the approximate image.
Look at, oh my God, have mercy. You know, I'm so happy I'm looking at this again. Big difference. Look on the left. PS5 Pro is not worth it. I mean, listen, I have almost perfect eyesight at my age, and I can see the difference. Look how washed out and fuzzy and crappy that looks on the left compared to how much more cleaner, more crisper, and more detailed it is on the right. Come on. Like, you can see the difference. Now, if you're a fanboy of another platform, or if you're just being hateful and bashful for no reason, then you're probably not going to see this, or you're probably not going to care. But as you can see right here with your own two eyes, big difference in terms of the image quality. Huge difference in terms of clarity. Look how washed out that looks on the left. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, man, wow.
Quality is, but it's a big challenge because like you're trying to
look how
communicate
ugly,
different things, and resolution is
look
important.
Look over here. Look how fuzzy that looks. You can barely see. Man, this is crazy, bro.
Part of that at the moment, at least, but that final image is ultimately what really matters to people. And I think that's what we're seeing with PSSR for sure.
Exactly.
One last question about PSSR here, and this relates specifically to your work, Mike, is that one thing we saw with PSSR in Ratchet and Clank in particular is that it appeared to improve the stability and resolve of RT reflections. Is that something that you've seen across other titles that you're working on?
Look at the PS5 Pro.
Is that something that you would expect would carry over to other games, possibly with RT reflections, where that PSSR process, or whatever inputs are being fed into that PSSR process, are producing a better result with PSSR?
So ray trace reflections are an interesting challenge because they are a composite of multiple images in the frame, right? That pixel that has the reflection, it's partly the window that is reflecting the thing, or the mirror. It's partly
look how
the thing
good
that's
that
being
looks.
reflecting in the picture.
God.
And so with the information you feed into an algorithm like PSSR, you're limited in how much you can describe about that one pixel. So an example would be if you're passing the depth buffer in to tell the PSSR how far things are from the camera, it can't tell it how far the window is and how far the reflecting thing is and how far the thing behind the window. Right? There's
man, that looks
there's layers.
Hey,
of
Ratchet. I don't care what none of y'all say about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Incredible looking game. Look at the reflections, man. Like, look at the image quality. Look how good this looks. This was a really well built game. Like, this was one of the best looking games that Sony put out on the PS5. Like, this looks really sharp, very clear, especially with the RT reflections and stuff like that. It looks really good.
Yes. And so that's what makes that a unique challenge is as you turn the camera, you have some
gotcha, Pandorius. Yes,
how
sir.
the window's changing, but maybe not information about how the reflecting thing in the mirror is changing.
Bro, look.
And
what?
one thing is...
Bro, look how good that looks. Look how good. Bro, am I watching a movie? Is this a movie I'm looking at? Man, it never seems to amaze me how our games are looking better and better and better as time progresses. Look how good that looks, man. Look how good that looks. My God, this looks incredible, man. I can only imagine what the future is going to bring, bro. Like, man, I'm telling you, bro, this looks really incredible.
Be really hard to encapsulate in an analytical algorithm like TAA, where you're sort of limited in how you express that kind of thing. So I think that's one of the areas we were hoping to see improvement is PSSR in a trained model that has more capability to perhaps recognize that type of situation or adapt to it.
I'd like to move on now from PSSR onto the hardware, and maybe we can discuss some of the things we saw in the presentation indeed there as well. When designing the PS5, one thing I was struck by in the presentation is there was not as much of a kind of organizing thought, I thought, around the PS5 Pro, like kind of the why rather than the how a little bit. With PS4 Pro, it was very much like we're going to target 4K displays. Here, it seems much more like you're achieving an enormous improvement in the power level of that console. But did you have a certain kind of game experience in mind to deliver to players when you were designing this console? Or was it like, we're going to achieve big power improvements and then the developers are going to show players what that looks like?
It's a mid-generation release, so really the target is better graphics, and it felt like the big three were the right things to go after. Larger GPU, more advanced ray tracing, and the ML. So I mean, not that complex.
Yeah, it's not that complex, but I think what we've seen so far, one really compelling thing, I think, is getting those fidelity modes, those 30 FPS modes, basically at 60 FPS with comparable image quality, very comparable looking visuals overall. So that is for sure something that is sticking out in this early batch as well as ray tracing enhancements like we're seeing in the Insomniac titles.
Man, I mean, also personally speaking,
look how fuzzy that looks.
Just great digging into the ML aspects of this and gaining some knowledge there. Because we know that's the future we're heading into. And so what an opportunity to gain all of that knowledge with the Pro, rather than waiting for the start of a true generation and having to get everything right with no experience whatsoever.
There you go. PlayStation, once again, PlayStation 6. PS5 Pro is bridging the gap between now and PlayStation 6. You understand what I'm saying? Because right now, same thing he said in that technical seminar is basically, they're learning right now, right? And they're building, confidence, and they're building so much, what they are learning right now with PS5 Pro, so that they could be better when it comes to PlayStation 6 or be even more sufficient. So, man, this is crazy.
Interesting thing about the PS5 Pro, it's obviously being upgraded in a ton of respects. You've got improved memory, improved storage, obviously a massively improved GPU, but the CPU is staying roughly the same as we had before. Now, there is a clock bump that developers can tap into there, but it is, broadly speaking, a very comparable CPU there. Why wasn't the CPU upgraded, and why was not such a big focus there?
I mean, it's really just a question of where you put your resources. And I wasn't seeing, and I didn't think I would see that many titles that couldn't run at 60. That's kind of my litmus test. I'm not asking, do all the games run at 120 at this point in time? I'm asking, do all the games run at 60? And you can count the AAA exceptions.
Bro, look how good. Oh, God. Look how good Last of Us. Man, Last of Us Part 2 does not get enough credit, bro. It's just, this game was destroyed with propaganda, with woke, blah blah blah, all this nonsense. But look how good this looks, man. I mean, it already looked amazing on the base PS5, but this is the PS5 Pro mode, and look, Lord have mercy.
One hand, I think, for games that didn't eventually run at 60.
Wow, man.
If we threw pretty much all of our resources into the graphics,
that looks incredible.
Approach.
Right.
My
So
God.
as a developer, the day Mark comes and says, "Hey, we want to give you guys a presentation about what we're thinking about for the next hardware," like that's a
Game
fun
looks
meeting for everyone.
incredible.
We were very happy with where the focus was here, GPU wise.
Yeah, with regards to the machine learning hardware in the console, do you essentially see that as kind of a solution for a problem that we're seeing across the industry, which is that you don't get good cost scaling on new silicon nodes anymore? You aren't getting that massive driving down in the cost per transistor that's enabled us historically to increase the power of consoles. Is machine learning ultimately, is that going to be the answer to that question, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully everybody watches that video that we're talking about, because that's precisely what I was saying, is rasterized rendering, and I don't have a better word for it, but the strategies that we had up through PS4 Pro or the like, that is, I wouldn't say it's reached a limit, but mostly it's about making the GPU bigger or memory faster. And so, as we look to the future, the improvements will be ray tracing. Ray tracing, I think we're going to see a lot happening there. And then everything we can get done with ML.
One last question here on the PS5 Pro hardware itself, the way that it's been configured. We seem to know roughly that you're targeting similar clocks in the GPU as in the base PS5 model. And you might have some issues possibly with running up against power constraints in this model in possibly a more significant way because the model itself has a much larger GPU. So is it the case that maybe developers will have to deal with a little bit more of a variable clock speed in that GPU?
That's a great question. It's pretty much identical. So PlayStation 5 capped at 2.23. PlayStation 5 Pro caps at 2.35, which I did not talk about in the video today because it's just such a distraction. I don't want anybody doing flop math based on 2.35 because at the end of the day, you go in and do the...
Good Lord. Look how... what? No way, bro. Look how atrocious on the base... What? Bro, look at Bill on the left and look at Bill on the right. Look how ugly that looks on the base P. Oh my Lord, have mercy. Are y'all seeing this? Are y'all really paying attention to this right now? Like, this is crazy. The difference on the image quality, like this is crazy. It just goes to show you, man, you have to looks the same. Are you not seeing this correctly? Or you're not seeing this correctly? Look on the left and look on the right and tell me if that looks the same. Look on the performance mode. On the left. Look on the performance mode. Look how fuzzy and crappy that looks. You don't... All right. Let me ask you all this right quick. Oh, let me get to Pantherius, $5. He said OLEDs need to be standardized so haters see what we see. It's such a different experience with the new tech on the way. It's gonna get very costly. Like, so, yeah, man. You don't see. Thank you so much. Definitely gonna get costly for sure, Pantherius. Like, you're telling me you don't see the difference? You're telling me you don't see the difference? Okay, man. Hey, you know what? I'm not here to argue with anybody. All I can say is looking at the PS5 Pro mode and looking at the base PS5 performance mode, I can see the difference. It looks more sharper, more crisp. It does not look all fuzzy, and you don't see a lot of, like artifacts or anything. Man, listen to me, man.
When we do the set design, we tune the set design so that the games are running at about 2.17.
Hey. Hey.
Right, we don't want to get too bulky. We don't want to have the fan have to be too large.
Okay.
Or the like. So, I mean, that
that looks
2.35 is really
insane, bro.
a red herring. I don't think too many games will get up to that too often.
Okay. I just wanted to ask some more, I guess, general questions and maybe a little bit more philosophical questions possibly from this point onwards, because I think we've seen from your presentation that you have a really clear vision for what the PlayStation 5 Pro looks like. And obviously you've delivered a compelling piece of hardware there. But I do wonder a little bit about something in the presentation.
$700 for this nasty work? Okay, man. Okay.
Which is that you kind of positioned the PS4 and the PS5 and the PS4 Pro and the PS5 Pro as existing along separate tracks.
What's up, Sean?
Down the left-hand track as generational leaps, and then the mid-gen refreshes on the right, the enhanced consoles. Now, we're in an era where developers are shipping cross-gen more than they ever have. But does that chart reflect that you still believe fundamentally in generational leaps, going from one generation to the next generation, big changes in software, big changes in what people can deliver on that hardware?
So we're not making PCs. We're making a few very specific things, right? How many types of PCs are there? I mean, you can't even answer that question because you can combine the components in any way you want to.
Yeah.
So the Pro consoles are very tightly targeted. I mean, you're seeing around GPU. But when a new generation starts, then
what? You don't need a magnifying glass to see this. Look on the left. And, people who are saying, $700 for this. Like, bro, look on hold on, pause. Let me elaborate something, because it's either people are trolling or they're just not understanding. Like I said, I have very good eyesight for my age, and I can immediately tell the difference from the base PS5 to the PS5 Pro. And I've said this numerous times. This console is not for everybody. Okay? It's for that high-end, hardcore gamer that is looking for the best image quality possible or the best amount of frame rate possible on a console. $700 for this nasty work, you say? Okay. Look on the PC side of things. Same thing. You have these older GPUs, and then you have these mid-gen GPUs, and then you have the higher end GPUs, right? And this is basically the same thing. You're paying, when you buy a new graphics card, you're paying for more graphics, right? You want better image quality, you want more frames. It's the same principle applied to the PS5 Pro. Like Mark Cerny said, we're not here to build PCs, because the PS5 Pro is a more targeted machine. Pro consoles are more targeted because it's targeted to a specific amount, a group of gamers. It's no different from GPUs, bro. You know what I'm saying? So if you treat it as, oh man, I'm going to give NVIDIA X amount of dollars for a more powerful GPU, same thing can be said. Would you say that's nasty work? Right? You're coming from, let's say, I don't know, a 3080 to a 3080 Ti. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. Is it a huge, gigantic, generational leap difference? No, it's not. But you will notice some differences. Things are going to look more sharper, more crisp, more detail. You're going to get more frames. You're going to get more RAM, stuff like it's the same thing with the PS5 Pro. Not everybody is out here going to be like, oh, let me go buy the Ti model when it comes to GPU. Some people are just like, they buy a GPU and they wait until the next generation comes, or maybe the generation after the next generation comes to make an actual upgrade. It's the same thing with consoles. You don't necessarily have to go out there and buy a PS5 Pro. What if this was Microsoft and not Sony? The conversation would be the same. It would be the same, because you would look at the base Series X and you would look at the Series X Pro, and you're seeing the differences here. Is anybody forcing you or begging you to buy the Series X Pro? No, because it's targeted. It's targeted towards a certain type of audience or a certain type of players that are needing more performance or needing the best performance that they can get out of their games. Simple, plain and simple. What you might think is nasty work for X amount of dollars might be better for somebody else. So it's just like, again, it comes down to your preference. Not every single person are going to look at this and be like, I'm buying the PS5 Pro. You see what I'm saying?
Marlon, some say in here that OLED tech hasn't changed in over a decade. So do you believe a $700 OLED is just as powerful as an LG G4 $2,000 TV?
Ever since OLED was first introduced, it has gotten better. The technology has gotten better, more brighter, less occurrence of burn-in, things of that nature. It's the same thing with upscaling technology that we currently do have. When something is first introduced and stuff like that, obviously they're still learning how to, make it better. You know what I mean? And maximize it as much as they possibly can. So OLED, from when it first started out to where it is now, is so much better. Similar to mini LED, because you have more dimming zones when it comes to mini LED. Things are it's starting to almost look like OLED. You know what I mean? Like it's getting to the point where it's kind of hard to differentiate the two, and you really have to have an eye. Same thing with mini LED and OLED. It's the same thing. You see what I'm saying? Some people prefer mini LED, and the rest prefer OLED. You see what I'm saying? So the biggest scare factor for a lot of people with OLED is burn-in, which there is so many different things, settings and features that these, manufacturers like Asus or MSI, right? Or Samsung is integrated into these panels that are engineered by LG or engineered by Samsung. You see what I'm saying? So you have your WOLED, which is engineered by LG, and then you have your Quantum Dot, which is engineered by Samsung. They each have their pros and their cons. But what they're throwing inside of these panels in terms of features is a way to help mitigate a lot of the wariness of burn-in by allowing you to have at least 3-year warranty on the panel in case of, burn-in and everything like that. Dell is one of the best right now in terms of warranty, where they're giving you 3 years peace of mind, and they're also giving you within that 3-year, a 3-year panel exchange capability, to where if you have any dead pixels or anything going on with the panel, they'll ship you out one right away, right? So you're not left without a monitor, which I think a lot of these monitor manufacturers should take a page out of Dell's book. So the wariness, you have pixel refresher, you have lower thirds, you have all these things, where the screen moves and things of that nature to help mitigate a lot of those burn-ins. So to take away that fear. So when you look at that, at least for me, somebody that's always working with OLED, like right now, I'm watching this Digital Foundry video on an OLED monitor, the Asus PG32 UCDM, which is literally the best monitor of 2024. So with that being said, Same thing could be said about with the actual console experiences that we've been getting, from PS4 Pro to PS5 Pro, obviously from PS5 Pro to PlayStation 6. You'll definitely see a huge difference there. And like I said, same thing with PSSR. It's only going to get better. And if you're looking at this and you're telling me you can't see a difference, bro, same thing could be said about regular IPS. You have a regular IPS monitor. Obviously, everybody know that the VA monitors are better in terms of IPS because, you get a lot more colors, obviously you get ghosting and stuff like that. But it kind of varies on what you may prefer, IPS or VA or OLED or mini LED or micro LED, whatever the case may be. But what I'm trying to tell you guys, each technology have its strengths and its weaknesses. Everybody like what they like, right? But at the same time, if you look at PS5 Pro and look at what it's offering right now, it's only going to get better, especially with the machine learning aspect of everything. Like, it's only going to get better. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, like you can see, look, bro, I need y'all to pay attention to the screen. Look on your left right now, and you cannot tell me that you can't see a difference. Like, it's night and day. It's literally night and day. That's how much huge of a difference you're actually seeing here. Look how blurry and fuzzy that looks on the base PS5 versus on the right. You can see all the vegetables. You can see the people more clearer on the right. You can see the stairs, everything, the bricks, everything looks more sharper and more crisp. And that's what Mark Cerny was actually trying to tell you guys, that this is not the PlayStation 6. This is a mid-generation refresh, and it should be treated as such. No different from upgrading your GPU. Upgrading the GPU don't mean that you're going to get significantly better CPU performance. You have to upgrade your CPU. Now, in this case, we already know that the CPU is basically the same with just a higher core clock. Come on, you know this. So, come on, man. You can see it.
What are we doing?
Look how fuzzy. You can't even make out anything on the left. Look how blurry. Looks like somebody took some Vaseline and just rub it all over the base PS5 screen. Like, look how it's a night and day difference. This is why I was trying to tell you guys that, FF7 Rebirth looks a night and day difference, and you're seeing it with your own two eyes. Zoom in on your phone if you have to, but I can see it, and I'm pretty sure you can see it.
The CPU, what are we doing with the amount of memory? What are we doing with haptics? It's a whole new experience that the developers can go out. And I think it's really helpful, even if we drop words like revolution from the conversation, I think it's really helpful if the developers have that thing to consider and can ask the question, okay, this game, yes, it'll ship on one, it'll also ship on the next, but how can it be a different creature for each of those? Not gameplay-wise, but in terms of the visual experience. Right. Good influence.
Yeah, so for you, really that distinction, and the distinction you kind of want to maintain, is that on that enhanced side, you're talking about bigger GPUs, better graphics, that sort of thing. But on the generational side, that's when you're really trying to talk about fundamental paradigms, like how fast is my CPU? What kind of haptics do we have there? Yes. Okay, that's the kind of fundamental difference there. We are talking about an era where rasterized performance improvements are maybe not as important as they used to be back in the past when they were extremely important. And the use of upscaling technologies is changing the way that we perceive a lot of those metrics.
Well, it's not all going to be rainbows and path tracing.
Well, exactly. So along those lines, actually, the PS5 Pro still has 67% more WGPs or CUs than the outgoing PS5. So this is not like, even though this is the future possibly of graphics rendering, a massive focus on AI and ray tracing. It's not completely here today, is it? Because you have to make some of these changes.
Sure. I mean, what was that like? Because you had a moderate boost for the raw graphics performance, and then you had a much better boost for the ray tracing. How did you tweak the engine?
Well, the nice part was that those things stacked together in a really constructive way. So we were able to use the faster ray tracing performance to get some time to spend to drive the upscaler further. And this came just the more sizable GPU came back to cut frame times down. So I think they stacked well for a game that was designed for the base PS5 and already had little bits of each of those pieces. You know?
Well, I liked it because very simplistically looking at it, it's faster, and so you've just sped up your rendering, and now you have 5 milliseconds to spend on whatever. And so why not spend them on improving your ray tracing or adding a new widget or whatever? Like if you're making an engine, nobody is ever coming to you and saying you now have 5 milliseconds to do whatever you want to do. That's just gravy, right? That doesn't happen.
It's pretty rare.
You're desperately trying to get to 60 frames per second.
Yeah, that was one thing in the presentation that I thought was quite compelling, which is you show like your 11 millisecond or your 16 millisecond workload on PS5 becomes an 11 millisecond workload on PS5 Pro. Then all of a sudden you've got this big chunk of frame time left over looking very scrumptious. And all of a sudden you can devote your resources to tackling ray tracing, to doing machine learning upscaling, doing a lot more on the hardware. I guess my last kind of round of general questions here has to do with Amethyst. So can you kind of explain the Amethyst initiative with AMD? You've discussed it already. You've mentioned it before. You talked about it a lot in the video. Can you kind of explain what the Amethyst vision is for your collaboration with AMD and what it will mean going forward?
Oh boy.
Sure. I mean, there's two components. It's a deep collaboration. It's multi-year. I mean, don't expect some massive hardware announcement immediately coming out of this. But there's two targets. One is better, more optimal, I should say, architectures for machine learning. And I look at that through a very narrow lens because we're making a console. And so I really want to hear about, number one, I think I want to hear about is, does it support these lightweight CNNs that we need for the graphics? Right? But I'd also like to hear about, if people want to do their AI or something on it, is it something that is portable? Is it something that's easy to create? Because you never want to lock people into just one hardware architecture when they make that stuff. So working on this generalized architecture that's particularly good at the ML needs of consoles.
Yes. Okay.
I suspect AMD might frame it slightly differently.
So for you guys, really, it's that focus on these really lightweight models that you're using in real-time rendering.
That's my personal focus, right? I mean, AMD, of course, is incredibly broad, and they have big machinery out in the cloud, and they have laptops. They're in so many different spaces. But I look at it as, yes, I'd love to see these things happen. And the other part of it is, for these neural networks, they are time-consuming to make. I think, with no exaggeration, PSSR is the toughest technical project I've ever been in my life.
Bro, look how ugly.
And it's just marvelous to have a partner.
Look at the guy on the left. Look at the older guy on the left. You can barely make out his face. Like, it's
also
crazy.
Has resources and expertise that can be going into very much the same targets. And what are those targets? It is super resolution. It is, I guarantee it's possible to do better than PSSR. And that's just scratching the surface of where we can head. I mean, I mentioned frame generation and the like, but there are uses I know are out there that we haven't even started talking about yet. So it's to develop those together. Now, to clarify, we're talking about developing components, not developing libraries. Because our customers are different, and when it comes down to it, the hardware is a little bit different. I hope it rung true when I was saying PCs and super resolution's a little bit different from consoles and super resolution, because we tend to be variable upscaling ratio, and PCs tend to be, it's changing, but tend to be fixed upscaling ratios. So having this ability to grab those algorithms and then integrate those co-developed algorithms and integrate separately is really going to be a boost, I think, across the board.
Yeah, it does seem like a very compelling technology partnership, especially considering that, like, on PS5 Pro, you're developing some custom hardware that looks very interesting, and possibly, a lot of those stuff that you're working on has applications to AMD and vice versa there. So I think that's a very interesting partnership. I guess one question that we do have and that we are curious about is how the hardware handles backwards compatibility. If you could answer that at all. Because we know that with the PS5 Pro, it doesn't have a perfectly butterflied GPU configuration, whereas on PS4 Pro, it was a butterflied GPU configuration.
It's a great question. So we learned a lot from PS4 Pro. So going into PS4 Pro, I thought we had to replicate pretty much the exact timing that the game was running under. And it turns out you don't need to. It turns out that if the timing can drift a bit and the game will still work. I mean, there's a limit to how far that can go, and we did see a few titles, like 11, I think, that wouldn't respond well when we did PS4 Pro to the radically different timing, but in general, that's out of thousands. But in general, the games are pretty robust when it comes to the timing. So, shorter answer is PS5 Pro, we just didn't worry about it. And the games are working.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because, that PS4 Pro approach definitely did guarantee that level of compatibility that you're looking for, but now it doesn't seem like it's that big of an issue.
So we need binary compatibility. So we need all of the registers that the game was hitting to be there. But we don't need whatever was taking 1,000 cycles before to still take 1,000 cycles. It's okay if it takes 600 or 900 or even occasionally 1,100.
I kind of had one other question about the hardware here. Given that the PS5 Pro seems to handle areas where RT is quite divergent a lot better than PS5, I know this generation so far we've not really seen games that use path tracing, possibly because of these fundamental issues here. Do you think that could be something that feeds into games that are using more advanced ray tracing techniques or even trying to ray trace all their lighting?
Well, I think we've already seen it. We've already seen that consistency of ray tracing performance pay off even in the Spider-Man 2 patch we've done. So we're able to put in ray traced AO. We have some ray trace shadows in there, and places where we were bumping up against those divergence limits. In fact, the water reflections in Spider-Man 2, we cheated them all so that they were less divergent than would be physically accurate in the water to sort of scrape that performance back. And so we're already seeing opportunities where it's paying off for us.
I think path tracing on PS5 Pro would be a little tricky to do. But, I wouldn't put it past the developers. There are some amazing engineers out there.
Yeah.
It sounds like a challenge.
Okay.
GTA 6.
One final question here. What is your kind of vision for what developers will be achieving on PS5 Pro ultimately in the future? Like, what would you say in a couple years, you're looking at PS5 Pro software, what would you be happy with ultimately?
Yeah, I'm happy with the launch lineup, to be honest. We view it very simply, is we're just making tools for the developers, and how the developers use those tools, that's up to them. And so, we've seen a couple different ways of doing it, I think, right now. Part of the fun will be, go out 3 or 5 years, there will be a lot more different ways to use them that we hadn't had anticipated.
Wow.
Look forward to it.
Wow.
Okay, great. Well, I think that was a really interesting conversation with Mark and Mike here. And thank you guys for joining me here. But I think that's going to do it for Digital Foundry today. So thank you.
Man, oh man, I've learned a lot today in those 2 presentations. Literally almost an hour, pretty much pausing everything, giving my opinion, pretty much talking to you guys about everything as well, and learning about how Mark Cerny engineered the PS5 Pro, learning about what the future is for PlayStation and also with AMD, and even potentially with the PlayStation 6. It's exciting to see. And also too, like he said, they're offering the tools. It's up to the developers to, fully utilize the tools that they're given. And path tracing, it's going to, like Mark Cerny said, and like Oliver said, path tracing, that's something that is going to be interesting to see on PS5 Pro. And it's going to take a very talented developer to utilize path tracing or even push it on PS5 Pro. I can't wait. I mean, there are so many talented developers out there. I'm just thinking about GTA 6 right now, and how they're going to incorporate that with the Pro in mind. And I think, like I said, right now, a lot of people are not on board with PS5 Pro because they don't see the vision or they don't see the need in upgrading to the PS5 Pro. And that's completely fine. That's your money. That's your business. You spend your money how you see fit, or you buy whatever you see. But ultimately, it's very clear to me right now that, like I originally was covering PS5 Pro about 1.5 years ago now, that the vision is clear, that things, Sony is learning and they're getting better. These developers are also learning and getting better and getting more ambitious. These games are getting more complex. These games are getting bigger. Engines are improving and things of that nature. So PSSR is going to be better. And I cannot wait to see the games, the newer games that are coming out in 2025, that is going to be fully utilizing the PS5 Pro, fully utilizing PSSR, stuff like that. Even, with the next Xbox, it's going to be interesting to see how that is going to be, obviously with, maybe FSR 4 or FSR 4.5 by the time the next Xbox comes out, and to kind of stack that up against PSSR to kind of see, kind of apples, or maybe apples to mango, or whatever the case may be. Obviously, as more competition rolls out, which means that's going to be pushing Sony and Mark Cerny and the team to be more advanced and to try to be as competitive as possible. And that's the whole point of today's show, is to kind of give you guys a little bit of understanding of what's behind the PS5 Pro, like moving the curtain behind the machine, so you guys can understand, okay, this is what went into developing the console. This is what you can expect. This is what developers are doing, or have an idea of what developers are doing, and shortening that window of development, or millisecond, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, overall, the future looks bright. 2025, we're looking forward to a lot of games that's going to be dropping on PS5 and PS5 Pro from Sony. And we're going to see, it's going to get better. I'm happy. I'm one of those people that I can proudly say that I did not waste my money on the PS5 Pro. I felt like games that really needed that push, games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which looked like a blurry, fuzzy mess on the base PS5, looks even better. Night and day difference. Games like Space Marine 2 that I held out on purchasing on the base PS5, I'm also seeing the differences there. And I'm just literally just blown away by the achievement of that. And also to Alan Wake as well. That's also another game that looks really good on the PS5 Pro. And introducing that new balance mode with 120 hertz looks really, really, really good. So yeah, man, the more these developers learn about PSSR and the PS5 Pro, and learning how to utilize it and exercise it like a muscle, the better the experience is going to be for the gamer. Now, for those of you who are trolling, that's completely fine. There's always going to be people trolling. There's always going to be people with their opinions and stuff like that. To each their own. You buy what you want to buy. Same thing is going to happen with the 50 series GPUs whenever they're dropping next month, or they're going to showcase them next month. I believe the rumor is that the 5090 is going to come out, late January, and then the 5080 maybe in February or March, and then the rest is going to be over the summer and in the fall. And people are going to be complaining, oh, it's not enough VRAM. Oh, it's not going to be enough difference between 4080 and 5080 or whatever. It's always going to be something to complain about. But regardless of the fact, it's technology at the end of the day, and we get what we get, and we just have to embrace it in regards to what these companies are giving us, and what we really want the hardware for. What are we buying a new GPU for? Like, what is the whole purpose of it? Is it to render out your videos at a higher resolution, or is it to get more frames, or whatever? Are you upgrading your CPU to go with that GPU? Or it just, at least with consoles, it's just like everything is baked in. So yeah, man, that's really wrapping up the actual coverage and stuff, like games like Intergalactic. Oh my God. Cannot wait to see that running on PS5. Like, yeah, that's going to be crazy. And let alone PS5 Pro. I mean, we've seen with our own two eyes Last of Us Part 2 and how amazing the gameplay is on that game. So it's crazy, man. It's literally crazy. Yeah, he said, watch. I don't even think we have enough time for that, bro. We're already well over our time. The rest of the topics and stuff, I'm just going to cover them in another Make sure y'all check out the video that we put out this morning. The rest of the topics I will cover in another stream, maybe tomorrow or something like that, because we are like well over our time. We are like 2 hours and 33 minutes, so we're well over our time here. But Intergalactic, it's already looking amazing. I can only imagine how that game is going to look and play. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show today, man. I hope you guys. He says, I'm sticking with 4090 and skipping 50 series. See what I'm saying? Like most people, you know, they're going to stick to their 40 series cards that they have, and then they're going to skip a whole generation and wait for the other generation, like I was saying earlier. Just some quick Q&A really quickly here. Like I said, we're going to scramble the rest of the topics until tomorrow when we have more time to kind of go over it. But I just really wanted to elaborate on everything Mark Cerny was saying, everything Digital Foundry was saying. Make sure y'all go subscribe to Digital Foundry as well. That was a great interview. I've already covered it. I've already covered it in the video. I would have to go back. I mean, you can look on Twitter and all the information is there. But yeah. Dallas says, good stream, even though I'm late. Oh, no problem, bro. No problem. Thank you so much. It's a PlayStation China event. PlayStation event. It's going to be a PS5 event where they're showing off a lot of the China Hero Projects games, stuff like that. And they're giving away a PS5 every 5 minutes or something like that. Check out the video that I dropped. Let me see here. Let me show that video. Let me drop a link in here so you guys can check it out after the show. But yeah, typically it should be on their PlayStation China YouTube channel. Believe they have one of those. Make sure you guys, or if you use Twitter and stuff like that, make sure you guys go check that out as well. But yeah, I have the video up here. So, you know, if you want to hold on, let me pause this video. Okay, there it is. Yeah. So go check out the video and stuff like that. But yeah. All right. Let me see what you guys are saying here now. Says I'll stick to my 4070 Ti for now till I need more VRAM. Hey, I hear you on that one 100%, my brother. I hear you on that one 100%. Oh yeah, Scott Free. Yeah, go check out the video. There's more details in the video. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up as well, man, so we can continue to do more videos like that moving forward for you guys. It says I was watching the PS Portal video, so I miss most of the Pro video. Oh, you're good. You're good. We'll have timestamps and stuff like that as usual. So yeah. So Marlon Gaming Nation, I have a question. All good game like first party running better on PS5 Pro than the original? Yeah, that's the thought process, man. That's the idea. You know, we will see. We will see. I think it's safe to say on paper, you can expect, you know, the games to look better and play better on the first party side of things. Make sure you guys give the stream a thumbs up. Let's see if we can get over 300 likes. I appreciate y'all. Says Square Enix has a reputation of making the best hardware look like trash with so many of their unoptimized titles ever since PS3 with Final Fantasy 13 stuff. Says, but on the bright side, we have Stellar Blade. Said PS5 Pro is the roadmap to PS6. Exactly. Which I've said that numerous times now. Yes, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. He said, Marlon, he says, where did you get that controller by? Oh, my wife bought it for me. I don't remember where she got it from. But yeah, she bought it for me for Christmas. Says I'm waiting for the PS5 Pro faceplates. Yes, that's gonna be, you know, early next year. Yeah, that's gonna come out next year. You already know how Sony does things, man. They'll come out with the hardware and then you have to wait a little bit for the accessories and stuff like that. So yeah, there's that one, man. All right, so I ask you guys, how do you feel about the PS5 Pro? Is it worth it? 53% of you guys said yes. 20% of y'all said it's a waste of money. 15% of you guys said I will buy it in the future. And then 13% of you guys said not interested. So there you guys go on that one. That's good to know. So Marlon, I'm not gonna lie, bro, but Mark Cerny kind of sounds like Ryan Reynolds from Deathloop. I mean, I said Deathloop. Deadpool. He says if you listen to his voice, I guess kind of in some ways. I don't know why. I don't know why. Sometimes I be thinking, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I can see that. So no excuses from devs not to optimize upcoming games on PS5 Pro, which is capable in handling graphics and or FPS. Yes. He says, waste of money. I'm waiting for PS6. Hey, there you go. There you go. Then wait on PS6. You know, it's the same thing with these GPUs. Not every single person is going to upgrade to the 50 series. Most people are going to wait until the 60 series to upgrade. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's just the nature of the beast at the end of the day. Next year, June, watch everyone going to all of a sudden want a Pro. Hey, man, let them all of a sudden want a Pro. Because I'm telling you, oh, boy, it's going to be rolling thunder. It's going to be rolling thunder come next year. GTA 6 is running better than the base PS5 on Pro. Yeah, Pros are going to sell out. So, yeah, let them say whatever they want to say about the Pro right now. That's fine. That's their opinion. But I'm telling you right now, if this game runs better in any way on PS5 Pro hardware, they're going to want to buy the Pro. So just leave everybody, let them say whatever they want to say about the machine. That's their opinion. If you think it's a waste of money, just don't buy it. Nobody's forcing you or making you buy it. It's on your own merit. It says when the PS6 drops, he said games will still be downgraded because of the PS5 and PS5 Pro. A lot of cross-generation games. But hey. So looking forward to Wolverine and DS2. Yeah, me too. Me too, man. I'm looking forward to both of those games. I think both of those games are really, especially Death Stranding 2. I'm telling you right now, that's going to push the PS5 Pro. Knowing Kojima, that's going to push the PlayStation 5 Pro. 100% going to push the PS5 Pro. All those games, man, GTA 6 is going to push the PS5 Pro. I'm telling you, like some of those bigger, more complex games, Wolverine, that's going to be pushing the PS5 Pro. I'm telling you guys, man, like I can't wait to see a lot of these first party games truly shine. I can't wait. I literally can't wait. I cannot wait, man. I cannot wait. I think it's about to be insane. Oh yeah, Metal Gear Solid Delta. Yeah, I can't wait either, man. I think that's going to be dope. It says, I got my Pro. It says, I'm happy like Pharrell. Ha ha ha. Yeah, man, I know. But hey, man, let me know, man. Let me know. It says Kojima and his landscape. It says large maps and sky bills. He said, yeah, man. Man, yeah. You know how Kojima is, man. It says when they show GTA 6 gameplay on Pro, I will lose it. Oh, I already know. A lot of people are gonna lose it, man. Say, Marlon, bro, you gotta get on that Marvel Rivals. We gotta play. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, the last time we were doing a blowout, I didn't see you or anything like that. But I haven't gotten on Marvel Rivals in a while, bro. Just busy, man. Lord have mercy. Just busy behind the scenes, my brother. Busy behind the scenes. But yeah, once we do another blowout or something, we can game in, man. We can game in. It says I'm going to wait in line at Micro Center for the 5090. Oof. Hey man, may the Lord be with you on that one, my brother, because that thing is going to be sold out. I'm gonna tell you right now, 5090s, with a drop of the hat. I mean, especially with the 4090 and how it was, scalpers were all over that stuff. I mean, it was sold out. I missed out on even getting a 4090, and I promised myself that. The last one that I had was a 3090. So coming from the 3090 to the 5090, that was the most powerful GPU that I've ever owned was the 3090. So yeah, from the 3090 to the 5090, that's a huge upgrade. So can't wait to see, the presentation and stuff like that. I've gotten further in Indiana Jones now. I've been playing little by little here when I have the time. But yeah, I gotten further. I'm still in the desert area, Egypt area and stuff like that. But I'm still playing here and there, stuff like that. So say, oh, I missed it. It says I'm gonna wait in line. It says I ain't gonna lie. It says I've been busy myself. It says I've been getting a lot of hours lately at my job, so I ain't really been able to have any time to. Yeah, me too, man. Busy, bro. Busy. When the camera goes off, bro, I'm busy. You know what I mean? So I try to squeeze a little bit of time, for gaming. Like my time in for gaming is short, like at least 2 to 3 hours, and then I have to get off the game. So yeah, man, I don't have the time like I used to be sitting down playing video games for 6, 7, 8 hours. I just don't have that type of luxury, you know what I mean, in terms of time. So I try to utilize my time the best way I know how. Indiana Jones looks dope. Oh yeah, it does. It says I just got the 97-inch LG G4. Ooh, God bless you, man. Enjoy. End of year is always like that. Yeah, there you go, man. Let's see how Indiana Jones look in PS5. We will see how it looks on PS5. I think it's gonna be crazy, man. It says, have you seen any drones in your area? No, I have not seen anything in my area at all. So hopefully GTA 6 on the Pro will not look like Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth on the base PS5. Nah, if that's the case, yeah, a lot of people are going to be very upset, and there would be no point in buying the Pro. But we'll see. Like I tell you guys, we will see what happens, man. Time is the master for everything. We're going to see how these games are going to look. We're going to see how these games are going to play. 2024 has been a great year for gaming so far. Marlon, what do you? Yeah, I think it's fantastic in terms of third party. Like first party, obviously we're waiting on, especially when it comes to Sony and stuff like that. But hey, man, it is what it is. It says, y'all Rockstar fanboys are going to go crazy if GTA look like Rebirth. Oh, Lord, here we go. Yeah, they're saying look like Rebirth on the base PS5 and not on the Pro. But yeah, he said he paid $20,000 for his TV. Hey, man. Hey, when you have it like that, bro, enjoy life, bro. Enjoy life. Enjoy what you like to play. Play what you want to play. And I think that's fair game at the end of the day. So has Sony had fire exclusives in 2024? Not so much, man. Not so much. I mean, they had some games, but not for the hardcore of hardcore, right? So we will see what happens in 2025, right? That's the main ordeal. I mean, yeah. So he said, Marlon, we all must be built different, man, because I don't understand how you manage to manage your time. He says, how do you manage to have a balance? How do you? Yeah, I don't even know, man. I don't even know. How do I even manage time, mental capacity, and family and all of that, and being a dad? Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. And that's why people have to understand, like, my time is limited. Like, as soon as I go off, bro, I am busy. I'm working. You know what I'm saying? Like, it never stops, So yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough. And then also too, doing this every day as well, my time is limited doing that. It's like, okay, 2 hours, we're pushing it. 2.5 hours, we're pushing it. Like, unless like I'm covering an event and I can schedule out the time and I'm like, okay, I'm dedicating this much time to this. But after that, I gotta go, so, but yeah. It says I had to pay $1,900 for the Strix. It says 4090. Let's just say I use it for movies. It says I've not tried gaming on it yet. Okay. Yeah, most of the time I barely get any sleep. Most of the time. It says which company between Microsoft and Sony has released better games in 2024? Well, that's subjective. I mean, that's up to the gamer to decide, right? To me, I think it's a bit of a balance between the two. I mean, you had Stalker, 2, you had Indiana Jones. Those two are like the bigger ones that really stood out to a lot of people and everything like that. Obviously on the Sony side, well, bigger stuff. I mean, we say Astrobot maybe for some, not all. You got Lego Horizon. You know, you got Until Dawn. You know, the remake for Until Dawn is that's what I'm saying. It's all subjective. Like, you know, everybody have their own opinion. You know, Hellblade 2, you know, stuff like that. So it really comes down to, you know, what your preferences are. You know, you had Helldivers 2 and stuff like that. I mean, again, comes down to you and what you like to play. I can sit here and tell you, oh, Helldivers 2. You know, Stellar Blade, you know, like all these other games, like, but hey, you know what? It really comes down to even games from last year bleeding over into this year. You know what I mean? Like to kind of fill the gaps of, oh, well, I didn't get to finish this, so let me go replay this type thing and everything. So yeah, but I love you guys, man. I do have to get going, guys. I appreciate y'all, all of you guys for being here today, for hanging out. I love, taking the time out of my day to communicate with you guys, to see how you guys are doing. I feel like every content creator should do that. Just take, you know, if it's even 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes talking to their audiences and see how they're doing. I think that's a marvelous thing. I try my best to get to every question that I possibly can, try to read every question. Sometimes I can't. Depending on how many people are in here, but I do have to get going. It's literally after 3 and duty calls. So you guys already know how it is. I'm a very busy man. I really am. And I try to do the best I can for you guys to make everybody happy on the channel, do the blowout series, do the show for you guys, and stuff like that. So on that note, guys, I love y'all. Be blessed, be easy. If you did enjoy the content today, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And continue to pray for the wife. She's definitely not feeling well, and obviously a lot of my time, you know, is being taken up to take care of my wife and stuff like that in this time. So not going to go into any details right now. Just pray for her, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. We out, man. Love you guys. Hit the like button on the way out, and I'll cover the rest of these topics we didn't get to cover today in another stream. Peace. Love you guys. Be blessed.